And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Garcia versus LeGrand. Step forward.
Frances Garcia is suing her mother, Joan LeGrand, for the unpaid interest on a loan. Frances says her mother has a gambling problem.
Miss Garcia, Miss LeGrand is your mother.
Yes.
And some time ago you made a loan to her, a loan which she acknowledges. It's a loan for, I think, $1,500. Is that right?
Yes.
And she paid you back the loan?
No, not fully.
How much does she owe on the loan?
The loan itself, it's $100 or $200.
You said 100 or 200. Well, this is a court. Be specific. Does she owe you 100 or 200?
Let me check here, so I can be specific. 100 difference.
It was a $1,500 loan. She paid you back $1,400. What did you need the money for, Miss LeGrand?
Well, Your Honor, I had some court-ordered debt that it needed to be paid to Sacramento, and to me that was a very urgent matter and needed to be taken care of, and that's why I got the loan from her to pay them.
Do you agree that you owe her the $100 on the original loan?
If she says I still owe her $100, I guess maybe I am $100 short, because the last payment that I made to her was $200, and I believe it should have been $300.
Okay. So you acknowledge that perhaps you owe her $100. She says that you do, but she doesn't want $100. She wants $1,600. You're going to tell me why?
Because my mother at the bingo hall came up to me. You can see this on the bingo paper. She approached me with this, and she said, "Dee, can you read this and then let me know something?" Well, per her contract, it states here $500 for court fines. Then it also says $500 that she owes the state. Well, then her total at the bottom is $1,500. I said, "Mom, what do you need the other $500 for?" "Oh, miscellaneous." I said, "Oh, it's for Jackson, right?" Because she likes to go gamble in Jackson outside of the bingo hall.
Okay.
So, anyways, per her contract, it says, if you would like to read it, Judge, the payment would be paid as follows. It's here starting May the 3rd, $200.
Just a second. She acknowledges she owes you $100 on the original $1,500 loan.
Yes.
But you want $1,600.
Yes, because that's why I loaned her the money. She agreed to pay me $3,000 back.
So she agreed to pay you double the loan, 100% interest. Is that right? And that's what you want?
That's what I want.
When did you make her the loan?
On April 26th.
Of what year?
Of 2005.
And when did she finish paying you the $1,400?
When did I have to press her to finish paying me?
When did she pay you?
Let me see. She did not pay in August 3rd.
Listen to me.
Okay, I did hear your question.
Listen to me. If you heard my question, give me the answer. When did she finish paying?
The 18th.
Of what month?
August.
Now, did you have a reasonable relationship with your mother before?
Outside of being her banker, no. We just talk whenever we see each other.
The laws of this country, in each jurisdiction, preclude, do not allow people to charge usurious interest rates.
She made the contract.
Listen, I want you to open up, put on your listening ears.
They're here.
Courts will not enforce a contract with usurious interest rates. They're against the law.
Okay, fine. Well,
good. Then she owes you $100.
I don't feel that's correct, because even if you use a credit card to get the money, there are 22.99% interest.
And?
So what's the difference? She's not paying me any interest. I didn't loan it to her just as a gift.
Let me tell you what the law says, just so that you're aware of it.
Please enlighten me.
I'm going to enlighten you, and I'm going to do it quickly because I have other fish to fry today. The law says that if you make a contract that's against the law, and it is against the law to charge too much interest, then the courts will not enforce that contract with any interest.
Oh, it's nice to know the law.
Good. Now you know it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100, which you acknowledge you owe her. That's all.
Don't talk to me no more. Ever again.
Your Honor, this is case number 165 on the calendar, the matter of Harrison versus Johnson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Harrison, you and Mr. Johnson had a relationship that is now over.
Correct.
According to your complaint, some time ago you took a vacation together. You were supposed to split the cost of the vacation, and he still owes you for some of that bill. In addition, after you separated, there was some altercation involving Mr. Johnson, and you claim he assaulted you. You want to be compensated for your pain and suffering as a result of the assault. Mr. Johnson says what was left over from the vacation was a gift, because you said that you would take care of the extra expenses, and that he never assaulted you. As a matter of fact, it was quite the other way around. So, when did this love affair start, and when did it terminate?
We had met in February of '04 while working together, and we had broken up this March.
And when was the vacation that you took?
In February of '05.
Where were you going?
I had purchased Lakers Piston tickets for him for Christmas, so we had went to Detroit, we had watched the game, and we had agreed before we left, everything would be 50-50.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, we were. So we had went to Detroit, and then we had went to Canada for a few days after that.
Well, is it the Detroit trip or the Canada trip that he owes you for?
It's a combination of all of it. There's actually, the total trip balance was $1,468. Therefore, his half of that would have been $734, which he's paid $354.50 and owes $379.50 as the remainder.
So let's take care of that first. Yes?
She's not telling the truth. I was told that, we would go to the game. She said she's going to buy me the tickets. I'm like, okay. She's talking about she wants to go to Canada to go gamble. I'm like, I don't have the money to go gamble in Canada. I really don't want to go. She says, well, we'll put it on my credit card. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, let's go. I agreed to pay her money for the trip to Detroit, at the game and everything. But then,
Well, how much was that part of the trip, Mr. Johnson?
Well, the tickets were free. She bought
No.
it.
Listen to me.
Okay.
How much was your half of the trip to Detroit?
I really don't know. I paid for the hotel, drinks, food, stuff like that.
No, just a second.
Okay.
Was that all put on her credit card?
Well, I gave her the cash. I don't know if she paid with her credit card or whatever. That's on her.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have receipts, credit card statements, and bank statements from all of the money that was spent. Definitely.
How much was spent from Detroit? I'm just curious.
From Detroit, we've got a charge of $64.59 in the hotel, and then he had bought some drinks at the game itself. That was
Well,
all
that's a
from Detroit.
small amount of money. Is that the only bill from Detroit?
That's the only bill from Detroit.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Just a second.
he's paid $354.
Just a second. Okay. When I say just a second, that means you have to stop. The only two bills from Detroit were a $65 bill from a hotel and a couple of drinks.
Yes.
Is that right?
I guess, according to her bank statements. I don't
Then
know.
what did you give her $354 for, sir?
I don't recall how much money I gave her. We had other things going at the time, so, like it gets really complicated.
I'm going to uncomplicate it. You owe $379.50 for the rest of the vacation you took together. You did go, and if you didn't want to go, you should have said, if you want to go to Canada, go alone.
But it was.
I'm speaking. Did you go to Canada?
Yeah, it was a
Did you
gift on her.
I'm speaking. I just answer my question.
Okay.
Don't volunteer anything unless I ask you to volunteer, which will be never. Did you go to Canada?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep in a hotel?
Yes, I did.
Did you eat food?
Yes.
You owe a $379.50.
Oh, man.
Now let's get to the assault. You broke up in March of 2005, and when do you allege this assault took place?
June 13th.
Tell me about it.
I had went over to the apartment which we previously had shared together to talk about some previous matters that were unhandled.
What?
It was money for rent that was due after I'd moved out that he had not paid, and then I in turn had to pay.
Well, what was your agreement as far as moving out and continuing to pay the rent?
The agreement was that he was going to take care of the rent since he did not wish to leave the apartment, which I would have, stayed if he would have left and taken care of everything myself.
Okay.
Anyhow, he had moved in some roommates as well.
So you went over there because you were held responsible for what month's rent?
For the month of June, as well as the first 2 months we had lived there were half price, so they violated the lease, so we had owed that money too. It was $1,300 that I had to pay.
Why did you pay it?
Well, I was buying a house, and I could not have that eviction on my credit if it was not
Were you
paid.
evicted from that apartment?
No.
Did you stay to the end of the lease?
No. The lease still isn't up yet.
All right, so in June you went to see him about some money that you thought he owed you.
Well, I had went over, and he was actually outside already, so he had just come up to the car. So we were talking through the window.
It's not true. She's lying.
Have you ever been in court before,
No,
Mr.
I have
Johnson?
not. No.
Since you have not, I'm going to give you a kindergarten course about court, especially mine. One party testifies, I ask questions. When she's finished testifying, you will be given an opportunity to testify.
Okay.
We don't shout out. This is not a discotheque. This is not a give and take. This is an organized, orderly process. Do we understand each other, sir?
Yes.
I don't have to explain this to you again, do I?
No.
Good. Keep going.
Okay, so he was speaking to me through the window of the car, and he was under the assumption that he thought I had taken money from him earlier that morning when I went to get my mail. So he kept bringing that up, you know, well, I don't care about all this money, where's my $14? So he reaches in the car, takes my purse. I grab a hold of it before he gets it completely across me because I had it right here at my side. So when I wouldn't let go, he starts hitting me in my chest. And so in turn, you know, I let go of the purse. So I got out of the car and, you know, I was asking him, you know, can I have my purse back, you know, whatever. And he's pushing me and shoving me, pushing me, you know, back from him. So, you know, he goes into the house and gets away from the situation. So immediately I had dialed 911 to, you know, reach the police. And they went to the door, you know, and got him outside and talked to him as well. I have the police run log as well.
I want to see a hospital record.
Okay, well, I didn't go to the hospital.
Doctor's report.
I didn't go to the doctor.
Get over it. Whatever pushing and shoving was done over the pocketbook was no big deal. Don't make it into a big deal. Then I begin to doubt your veracity. We understand each other?
Sure.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you paid it back?
No. And as a
Well,
matter of
are
fact,
you on drugs?
No.
Then just answer me. I said if you paid her back. The answer is no. One no will be sufficient.
And later today,
Let him take the car so that he could go to school and look for a job. That's what you're supposed to do. You're his mother. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
Well, it seems to me this one is doing okay, which means that your mother probably did something right.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Harrison says ex-boyfriend Claude Johnson owes for a trip to Canada and for an assault.
Did you think that she took money from your house?
I know that she took money from my house.
And how do you know that, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I do have 2 roommates. My roommates were sleeping. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning when she came in my house. In the meantime, I had money on my table in my room.
$14.
$14, but it was all the money that I had at the time. So, you know, it's like $1 million to me because it's all I had. Anyways, I go downstairs. You know, I talk to her about whatever, you know, the money situation, the rent, da-da-da. Okay, she says to me, she says, how much money do you have? I'm like, well, not enough, you know.
Well, you're living there. Why don't you have money for the rent,
Well,
Mr. Johnson?
this is about, I have got money, I had, like I said.
Listen to me, sir. Don't double talk me. It's June. Where's your rent money? You and your 2 sleeping roommates.
We had the rent money for the month, right? The thing is we were being charged extra money for the rent. Instead of being $600, we were being charged $1,200. In all reality, we were moving. She just didn't know it yet, so I wasn't going to give her anything, you know. Now.
So you're going to stiff her on the landlord?
No. I was going to pay it. It's big. It's hard to explain it. You know, it would take a long time. Anyway, let's get to the point. She goes upstairs. She says, I'm going to go look for some money.
Have you? And so she took you $14. You went upstairs. You didn't see your $14, so you figured it was in her purse. When she came back later, you went into the purse. Fine.
Fine.
Who paid the landlord the $1,200?
She did.
Have you paid her back?
No. No. And as a matter of fact.
Are you on drugs?
Huh?
Are you on drugs?
No.
Then just answer me. I asked you a simple question. I said if you paid her back. The answer is no. 1 no will be sufficient.
The answer is no. I shouldn't have to pay her back. Yeah.
Well, she didn't file a counterclaim. I'm just curious. Why didn't she ask for that money?
I was told I should handle that in the local Franklin County courts.
That's too bad. In any event, he owes you $379.50 for the vacation, which he agreed to pay for, and he did not completely pay for. I don't believe he assaulted you to any extent that requires compensation by a court. He was angry, but I don't believe he hurt you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $379.50. And Ms. Harrison, let me explain this to you. You should thank your lucky stars that you got out when you did.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Good,
man.
thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's an evil person. You know, that's why. I don't know why she did it.
He said that he would have the means to pay me back.
She wanted to stay at the Hilton. You know, she wanted to go all out.
That's just the way I roll.
After we broke up, you know, in March, it turned into a loan.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cowan versus Cowan. Step forward.
Diane Cowan is suing her son, 23-year-old Kenneth Cowan Jr., for car payments and for stealing her tax refund from their shared bank account.
Mrs. Cowan, this is your son. Your lawsuit claims 2 things. First, that you had an arrangement with your son wherein he would use your car and make the payments on it while he was using it until he purchased his own car. You claim that with regard to that portion of your complaint, he did make some payments, didn't pay them all, and ultimately you sent somebody down, your fiancé?
Yes.
Down to pick up the car because he had moved to a different state. So you want him to pay some $1,000 that he should have paid on the car. The second part of your complaint, which I really believe, based upon what I read, is what you're complaining about. You just tacked on this car business later, is that you and your son shared a joint bank account. At some point, he withdrew $2,000 from that joint bank account, and he withdrew that money, which was from your tax refund, because you claimed him as a dependent for last year. And he says he's entitled to that money because he was going to file his own tax return as a single individual, but since you had already claimed him as a dependent, he couldn't claim himself. So he took the $2,000 because he said you weren't entitled to it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I correct, Ms. Cowan, that but for the withdrawal from the bank, we wouldn't be bothering with any money he might owe on the car?
No, we had made a verbal agreement, and I told him that once he took the vehicle to Texas, that he would be responsible for the payments.
Did you have that agreement with your mother?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Fine. At that time, were you going to school, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also working?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
Who was supporting you?
I was on academic scholarship and receiving money from Pell Grants.
Did your mother send you any money?
She may have given me a total of $500.
Okay. Is it correct, Ms. Cowan, that for the year 2004, your son was basically self-supporting?
No.
Well, how did you support him?
Okay, by me being a disabled veteran, it took care of his 2 years of college.
Just a second.
Okay.
You're being a disabled veteran and the government picking up part of his tuition means that we supported him, not you. Is it true that he was either self-supporting or on scholarships and or Pell Grants that he's going to have to return?
Yeah, he was on Pell Grants, but I supported him as far as sending monies for groceries or if he ran short.
How much money did you send him for the year 2004?
I would say over $2,000.
Show me.
I don't have it as far as monetary back. Most of the time I would always deposit it in my account because we shared account.
I have bank statements showing to where there were deposits made on the account, and these are the only cash deposits on the account are ones that I made.
How many times did you withdraw money from this account, Mr. Cowan?
Very rare, maybe once a semester, if that.
So this was primarily your bank account, that you used this bank account to pay your bills?
Yes.
Okay. You have a copy of your tax returns from last year, sir?
Yes, ma'am. My W-2s and my tax return.
So you had an adjusted gross income of a little over $5,600.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your statement, if I believed you, which I don't, at most you sent your son $2,000.
Right.
Then you were not entitled to claim him as a deduction because you didn't contribute more than 50% of his support. You were not entitled to claim him as a deduction.
Yes, but according to VA, if I had not claimed him as a dependent, then they would not have taken care of his bills. You know, I'm not a...
Just a second. Let us say that because of some regulation, you were required to claim him as a dependent, even though you did not contribute more than 50% of his support. Let's say that that's true. Then what you should have done was discuss it with your son and say, listen, for the purposes of the VA, so that you can continue to have all your classes covered or whatever percentage the VA covers, I have to claim you as a dependent, but I'm going to give you the $2,000. What would have been wrong with that?
Well, I agreed to that. And
so then why are you complaining that he took the $2,000 out of your account?
Because it was the procedures that he took. Now, he know normally there has not been a time that I have denied him of anything.
So you didn't like the fact that he did it in a sneaky way?
That's right.
Okay. She says she didn't like the idea that you were sneaky about it. Well, I think, Ms. Cowan, one of the reasons he might have been sneaky about it was because when he filed his tax returns, he filed them as an independent, and then he was told later that he was denied his refund because you had already claimed him as a dependent. Had your mother discussed the fact that she was going to claim you?
She had said she was going to try to claim me to recoup some money that I hadn't paid her on a car payment. She told this to my uncle.
Oh, well, I don't want to hear about the car payment. Listen to me, Ms. Cowan. As far as I'm concerned, you got a son that's doing the right thing. If you had a car and you let him take the car so that he could go to school and look for a job, that's what you're supposed to do. You're his mother. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
Okay, well, it seems to me this one is doing okay, which means that your mother probably did something right.
Yes, ma'am.
Should have done the right thing. Shouldn't have made this situation so mucky. Ms. Cowan, irrespective of what he did, you're still his mother, and I sometimes wonder whether I would have, I don't have to wonder, I would not have pursued this matter in court. I would have said to him, it's not the right thing to do. What's your first name?
Kenneth.
It's not the right thing to do, Kenneth. You shouldn't have gone behind my back and taken the $2,000 out of the account. I was prepared to give it to you, but you shouldn't have just taken it. I'm not so sure that you were prepared to give it to him, because according to you, he owed you some money on this car nonsense. Can't tell you how many cars I bought my children. If you had not claimed your son as a dependent, what would have been your refund?
I would have gotten $1,913 from
And
that.
how much did you actually get?
$29.13.
Yes, sir.
When I asked my mother for her tax return, I was going to return whatever she didn't get for claiming me. She sent me a tax return that said she only got $300 for me, which was false.
But she got $1,000 for you.
Right.
Is that what you want, sir?
Yes.
Then you have to give your mother back $1,000 because you took out $2,000 from her account.
No, I was supposed to get $2,000 back, and I was unable.
Listen to me. What your mother is saying is she was required by the VA to claim you as a dependent in order for you to get certain benefits. So, although if you filed for yourself as an independent, you would have gotten $2,000, if she didn't file for you as a dependent of hers, you wouldn't have gotten other benefits which far outweighed that $2,000. Are you following me?
Yes, ma'am.
So that you should not have taken out the $2,000 from the account, because all she got, by virtue of her claiming you as a dependent, was an extra $1,000. So that's all you were entitled to. Are you following me?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Party judge speech. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 186 on the calendar, the matter of Wells versus Sharp. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
What is all that stuff?
This is stuff that I brought that I don't have actual receipts for, just to show you that.
What is it?
It's the Unity candle, some table decorations that we made, the candle stands.
Bert, could you do me a favor? Could we get rid of that? I don't need all that stuff here.
Where you want me to put it?
I put it on the floor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ma'am, take this stuff, put it on the floor, please. Thank you.
Perfect. Ms. Wells, this is what the case is about. Mr. Sharp is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. He and your daughter had a very short and unpleasant marriage, and it is your claim that he had agreed to pay for half the wedding. The loan lasted longer than the wedding.
Correct.
Now they're going to get a divorce, and you want half the cost of the wedding, which was, you say his half was $7,000?
Correct.
Mr. Sharp said, listen, I never agreed to pay for a big wedding. So, Mr. Sharp, this I assume is your soon-to-be ex-wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were the two of you dating before you decided to get married?
4 months, Your Honor.
What?
4 months.
And whose brilliant idea was it to get married?
Mine, Your Honor.
Could you speak up
Mine.
a little bit? I'm old. I have...
Mine. Mine.
Did you give her a ring?
Yes.
How much did you pay for it?
I want to say about 200 and maybe 34 bucks, 40 bucks.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for Sun Cruise Casino and a gambling boat.
And how much do you earn a week?
I make 8, but I bring home like 7. 700.
A week?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay. When your daughter came home and showed you the engagement ring and told you that Mr. Sharp had asked her to marry him, what did you think?
I didn't approve of it. I didn't like it because they didn't know each other that long, but...
Well, that's a good judgment on your part. When you saw the engagement ring that he bought your daughter, what did you think of it?
I didn't have any thoughts. I mean, I
Did
thought...
you think that he wanted to get her the best possible engagement ring he could?
He possibly could,
Listen to me. Did you think that he wanted to get her the best possible engagement ring he could afford?
Yes, I did.
And he spent $230 on the engagement ring, which was the best he could afford, right? That's what you thought.
I didn't know how much it cost him.
But it wasn't. We're not talking about the Hope Diamond here.
No.
Now, who wanted the big wedding?
Richard did.
Did you?
Yes.
Why?
At the time, I was in love with her. Then, after we got married,
Listen to me, Richard. You didn't take any snoozy pills this morning, did you?
No, ma'am.
I want you to listen to the question. Your mother-in-law says you were the one who wanted the big wedding. Is that true?
Yes.
Who was supposed to pay for it?
She was.
Your Honor.
Shh. Why was she supposed to pay for a big wedding if you wanted it?
So
Do you want to take a nap?
No.
Who is this?
My stepfather.
Step up here with him. Tell me your name.
Frank, Your Honor.
Frank what?
Enoch.
Mr. Enoch, do you understand my question?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Miss Wells wants your stepson to reimburse her for half the wedding. Ordinarily, I would say, listen, that's ridiculous. Usually, it is the bride's family's responsibility to pay for the wedding.
Your Honor.
I'm speaking. My father and mother paid for my first wedding. They paid for my second wedding. And then my father said, the next one's on you. However, you see, I'm having trouble communicating with your stepson, sir, because I'm not quite getting the fact that he's wrapped too tight.
He's nervous, that's all.
He doesn't look nervous, Mr. Enoch. He looks tired. Are you nervous?
Not really.
I can try harder.
I don't think you'll be able to make me nervous.
Do you understand what I'm saying
I
to you, Mr.
understand what you're
Enoch?
saying, man.
So Miss Wells says he's the one who wanted the big wedding. I don't know why. It's usually the bride that wants the big wedding. You didn't want a big wedding?
No, ma'am.
Step up here with your mother. Why did he want a big wedding? He had a whole bunch of friends?
When he was working at the car lot, he was inviting people he didn't even know that would come and make a payment to our wedding.
I want you to tell me what happened when you started to discuss the cost of it.
We sat down, and me and my mother explained to him, we don't have this kind of money. We don't even know these people. If it was, if it was some people he knew, then fine, but he didn't know these people.
So what did he say?
He said, well, I think they should come anyway, and I'll pay for half the wedding since it's mostly my people that I want to come.
Is that what you said?
No, ma'am.
How many people were at the wedding, Mr. Sharp?
There's about 120, 140.
How many people were at the wedding?
73.
Of the 73 guests, how many were his family and friends and how many yours?
60 of them was his.
You mean you had 13?
Yeah, because we're not from Florida.
60 were his family and friends?
Yes.
And 13 were your family. Is that right?
Correct.
Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
How many were your family and friends?
My family was 5, and there was maybe like 3 or 4 friends of mine.
Your Honor, I have the wedding pictures. I also have the kind of people that you're dealing with. This is public record.
I don't need to see the kind of people that I'm dealing with. I just have to try to figure out whose responsibility is to pay for this fiasco.
Fiasco is correct.
These pictures?
Now, let me take a look at the wedding pictures. Miss Wells, is this your only child?
This is my only daughter, yes.
This is your only daughter?
Yes.
You should go around the desk praying 3 times, get down, kiss the floor, and say, thank God she got out when she did.
You're correct. I agree.
Because you don't have any children with him, do you?
No, ma'am.
But for the grace of God, you could have had a grandchild fathered by this guy.
No, thank you.
I agree with you.
No, thank you. Really.
Unless he's
thank you.
Unless he's hiding something from me that I don't see.
Well, you're not missing much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What was the nature of the felony that you were convicted of?
Sales and possession.
How many times?
Twice.
That doesn't mean that you sold only twice. It means you got caught twice.
I got caught twice.
And later today,
It appeared that Mr. Martinez did not realize that he collided with Miss Farmer's vehicle. You know why that was?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Wells says her estranged son-in-law, Richard Sharp, owes for half the cost of his wedding. Richard claims he never agreed to pay.
Okay, who was in this picture? Can you see it from there?
Yes.
Who was in this picture?
That's me, Jack, Bill, Terry.
Who are they?
Friends of mine.
Friends of yours?
And the one guy, Jack,
Just
I
a
used
second.
to work
You
for
said
him.
3 or 4, so that these are the only people at the wedding that were your friends?
There might be a little bit more, but other than that.
Who are these people?
That's my stepbrother, and that's her stepfather.
Okay, so you got a stepbrother here.
Yes.
Was he in this picture too?
No, ma'am.
These people come with their significant others, or they come stag?
They came with others.
With others?
They came with the.
So you got to do this times 2, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's more than 3. Even you could tell that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, it's clear to me that he had certainly more than 3 or 4 people at the wedding. So what you're telling me is he said to you, these are the people that I want at the wedding, they're friends that I work with?
Not friends that he works with, but he was working at a car lot, and people that would come in to make their payments that he would talk to just to make their payments, he would invite to our wedding that he did not know.
Your Honor, I had to finally put a stop to it because this list was like 300 people.
Who was supposed to pay for all these people, all these strangers?
I felt that I was going to pay for them, but as soon as she said she put a stop to it, I said, okay, never mind then.
All right. Now, where were they married?
At the Ramada Inn.
Had you taken the Ramada Inn before or after you had this discussion with him about inviting too many people to the wedding?
I'd already talked to the Ramada Inn, and then when he kept adding
No, I want you to make sure you give me the honest answer. You had gone to the Ramada Inn, you have to give them a deposit and reserve the date.
Correct.
Had you done that before you had the discussion with him?
Yes, but he kept adding to the list.
You don't have to repeat it. I understand what you're saying to me. So you had already taken the hall, and initially he was not going to pay for half the wedding. That's according to what I'm gathering now. It was not until after he started adding all these people.
No, Your Honor, that's not correct. He agreed to pay for half the wedding.
No,
we went to the.
I was there when it was discussed.
No, I don't believe that, Miss Wells.
But that is
Listen to me. Miss
No.
Wells, I don't believe that. I don't believe that
true.
somebody who buys a $230 engagement ring makes a knowing decision to pay for half the wedding that, according to you, cost $14,000.
I wanted them to elope. I offered to give him $2,000 so I didn't have to pay for this big wedding. He had already agreed to.
Now you want to talk to me?
Yes.
Good. Now I'll hear you. But make sure you're telling me in a loud, clear
I
voice.
did not agree to pay for half of this wedding, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what happened.
What happened is I started adding people to the list, and she said, no, I can't afford all these people to come, Your Honor. So I said, okay, well, we'll stop all them people, because who even knows if half of them people are going to show up.
Your Honor, that's not right, because I even paid for his probation. He was supposed to pay me that back as well, and he has not even done that.
And her daughter paid her back out of that with her income tax money, Your Honor.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is you were on probation, you had certain fines,
Yes, ma'am.
and she paid your fines
With her income tax.
because you didn't have the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how could you reasonably expect him to pay $7,000 for a wedding when he couldn't even pay his own probation fine?
We paid his probation off so he could get off by the beginning of February for our wedding.
You working?
Yes.
Pay your mother back for this wedding.
No way.
Pay your mother back for this wedding.
I've paid her half of the wedding already.
I don't believe that he agreed to pay you for half the wedding.
He didn't, Your Honor.
No, ma'am.
I don't believe that.
Your Honor, he did agree to pay for that wedding.
Do you have that in writing someplace?
I don't have papers for that.
You should. You're dealing with
Well,
someone who is
no.
a convicted felon. It would seem to me if someone agreed to
Your
pay.
Honor, he
I'm
goes to church
speaking.
every Sunday.
I'm speaking. I have to come up in my mind if he agreed to pay you, which I doubt. But let's say he said, "I'll pay for half the wedding." Whether there was any legitimate and reasonable expectation that this person who spent $200 for an engagement ring and couldn't pay his probation fines was going to be able to pay for a $14,000 wedding. What was the nature of the felony that you were convicted of?
Sales and possession.
Sale and possession of what?
Cocaine.
How many times?
Twice.
2 different arrests?
Yes.
That means you got caught twice.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you sold only twice. It means you got caught twice.
I got caught twice.
Well, then you are smart.
Yes, ma'am.
Pretty smart. Because
Well, not pretty smart for selling drugs.
But you were pretty smart. You did it a few times and you didn't get caught, right?
I should have done it at all.
I asked you a question.
Yes.
Just a second.
Yes.
Don't tell him what to say, Mr. Enoch. I think he understands me pretty well, sir. I think he's keeping his cool because I don't think that with this kind of act, this young woman would have said yes to this proposal.
Your Honor, can I say something? Please.
Go ahead.
He goes to church every Sunday. We thought that he was reformed. I mean, you're supposed to give everybody a chance. And that's exactly what we did. We believed him.
And the reason that the wedding was ended is because he moved in with his girlfriend that he had before we were married.
No. Your Honor, this lady, my soon-to-be ex-wife, she thinks I am sleeping with this girl, Melissa, okay? Me and Melissa ain't together.
Ma'am.
She would not sleep with me because I am married to this young lady here. And I got to respect
So
that
you've
woman
asked her
for that.
to?
Listen to me. I just wanted to hear him talk because so far I've had monosyllabic conversations with him, and I wanted to make sure that he was more together than he was presenting. I'm speaking more together than he was presenting to me a moment ago. I do not believe that he agreed to pay for half the wedding. It's unfortunate, and my advice to everyone out there is don't spend an awful lot of money on first weddings. Wait for the second one. They usually hold out a little bit better.
Your Honor, he
I'm sorry,
did
Ms.
agree.
Wells. So I don't believe it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't believe I just said. He's a straight up liar, and he knows he is. He's a con artist.
I think it's just all a bunch of, excuse my language, I think it's a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you.
He is a liar and a cheater.
I don't feel I owe not a dime to this.
I don't want to be around him.
I'm just going to walk away and wash my hands with this whole situation.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Farmer versus Martinez. Step forward, please.
23-year-old Cammie Farmer is suing Jose Martinez for a late-night fender bender outside a nightclub. Jose says it was Cammie who backed into him.
Ms. Farmer, you claim that Mr. Martinez damaged your car in a parking lot. And Mr. Martinez says that the accident was both of your faults, so you should each pay for your own damage. You were all exiting a club that evening.
Right.
So what I'd like you to do is to go over to that chart that you've prepared and show me where the exit was.
This is the exit right here.
Okay, so there's a steady stream of traffic that's going sort of in the center.
Right.
And what happens is I assume that a car in the center lane lets one car in from one side and then another car goes. It's sort of alternating egress from the parking lot.
And there was police officers in the parking lot directing traffic.
Now, what kind of car were you driving?
A 2000 Chevy Malibu.
And Mr. Martinez?
A van.
So tell me what happened.
As I was trying to exit...
That was you. You're in the red.
This is me. I'm the red and he's the blue. So as they're exiting and I'm waiting in line for them to exit, I guess he got impatient and was in a hurry or whatever and tried to go around me. And his back van door was open. So as he's trying to go around me, his door caught my left bumper and my left tail light and shifted my trunk.
You have pictures of that?
No, I don't. I put it in the shop the next day, so I didn't take pictures.
Well, after his van door hit your car, what happened?
The police officer that was standing back here directing traffic directed us to pull this way and exchange information.
And you did that?
Yes.
You have a police report?
No, because it was on private property and there was no injuries, the police officer didn't take a police report, but he gave me a statement.
I'd like to see it. This is Police Officer M. There were 20 vehicles in the parking lot attempting to leave. Okay. So what I want you to do, sir, is to give me your version of what happened. Because I will tell you now, Mr. Martinez, the police officer observed what happened.
Okay.
So before you even think about trying to fabricate a story, I suggest you think hard about what happened.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Well, that night, me and my friends threw a party at a club in Union City.
I don't care.
And,
listen to me. I don't care. Get to the parking lot.
Okay, the parking lot. Okay, well,
And
like
look
I say,
at me when you're talking.
Okay, we was partying. You know, everybody had a little liquor in them.
Not me.
No, just a second.
Okay, well,
you had a little liquor
I had a
in
little
you.
liquor in me. So I'm like, we was exiting the parking lot. And could I show you on the graph? Oh, this is the parking lot. I guess this is how you get out. I'm right here, she right here. I'm going up. When I was coming up, she was coming back. So we both hit each other. The reason I didn't really file no counterclaim because I figured it was both our fault.
No!
That's why I did that.
Well,
where was I going?
Now, just a second, just a second. Get back there.
Okay.
First of all, you had no business being behind the wheel of a truck or a van or a vehicle if you had been drinking.
Yeah.
Because it clouds your judgment.
Right.
And let me tell you what the police officer said.
Okay.
The police officer said he observed a black van with its passenger side sliding door open as it was attempting to drive around Miss Farmer's vehicle. In trying to do so, the black van side door collided with the right rear taillight of Miss Farmer's car. Mr. Martinez continued driving along the side of Miss Farmer's vehicle, causing more damage. It appeared that Mr. Martinez did not realize that he collided with Miss Farmer's vehicle. You know why that was?
I realize.
All right. So let me see an estimate, please.
I got 2 estimates. The shop that I went to gave me a discount.
Okay, but you had it fixed.
Right.
Well, how much did you pay to have it fixed?
$827.60. Here's the receipt.
Good, great. But I'm surprised that as the police officer didn't cite you for driving while under the influence of alcohol.
I also have rental car receipts because I had to get back and forth to work, and I also had a daughter that needed to get back and forth to school.
Who do you live with?
I live by myself.
I'll see them.
The receipts are in my mother's name because she rented it, but I gave her the money, cash.
All right, the judgment's for $970. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Case number 212 on the calendar in the matter of Levi versus Burdett.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
What's your first name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, this used to be your boyfriend?
Yes.
Your mother's complaint is that on 2 separate occasions involving 2 separate cars that she bought for you, you allowed Mr. Wonderful over here to drive the cars and he totaled them.
Yes.
The first incident, there was insurance, and there was a $500 deductible. Second instance, she bought you another car. You again allowed, what's your first name?
Dion.
Dion, to drive the car because you don't learn from your mistakes. And he totaled the second car.
Yes.
Then you decided you had enough.
Yes, that's correct.
When was the first accident, Dion?
January 26th.
Tell me about that.
I asked her to leave me the car in case
Were
I
you
needed
living
to go.
together?
Yes.
How long had you been living together?
Approximately 6 months.
You asked her to leave the car. Why?
In case I needed to go somewhere because I didn't have insurance on my vehicle at the time.
Where was she going?
She was going to school.
And what were you doing that day?
I just sat at home all day until I went to pick her up and had an accident.
Was that a weekday?
Yes.
Well, were you going to school at the time?
No, I wasn't.
Were you working at the time?
No, I wasn't.
Why not?
I'm not really sure, Your Honor.
Well, how long was it that you weren't working, Dion?
Approximately 3 months.
Who was supporting you? Get her a copy of that book, Beauty Fades, Dumb is Forever. You were supporting him?
I wasn't really supporting him. My parents were helping me pay the rent. I was just helping him out.
So your parents were supporting him?
They were helping, yes.
News to me.
See what you find out? What do you do for a living?
I'm a housewife.
And your husband?
He's an investment representative.
So he works?
Yes, he does. Very hard.
How long have you been married?
22 years.
In the 22 years that you've been married, how many months has your husband been out of work?
None.
Never?
Never.
Right? Never. How old are you?
22 years old, Your Honor.
Before you moved in with Jennifer, where were you living?
At my parents' house, Your Honor.
What does your father do?
He is an airplane mechanic at O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Do you ever remember a time when your father sat around eating bonbons for 3 months and not working?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Why do you think that is, Dion?
Because he has children to pay for, Your Honor.
Because he likes to eat.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like to live in the street.
No.
Now, when you left your parents' house, were you working?
Yes, I was.
Where were you working?
Cub Foods.
Doing what?
I was in the meat department, cashier, dairy
What happened to that job?
I lost it.
Why?
Due to too many absences.
Why were you absent?
I was sick, road conditions, stuff like that happens.
What was wrong with you?
I had the flu. I mean,
for 3 months?
No, not for 3 months, but I mean, I was out of work for 3 months.
All right, now let's get to the first accident, Dion, because I've tortured you about your responsibility in growing up long enough, because even I'm getting bored with it. I don't know if I'm getting through to you, sir. If you want to be a grown-up and live out on your own, you have to work. 22 years old, still not fully cooked, probably, but that doesn't mean you live off the kindness of strangers. She's a stranger to you. She has her own children, and if she's supporting her daughter, and if her husband is supporting her daughter, they don't have to support you, too.
That's true.
Thank you. So you asked her to leave you the car just in case she wanted to go looking for a job that day.
True.
I almost forgot how entertaining this could be. Sort of forgot how dumb people can be. All right, so you kept the car so you could go and look for a job, but you didn't go and look for a job. Where did you go, Dion?
I didn't go anywhere.
You mean the car had an accident in the house?
Like
How did that happen? Explain that to Officer Byrd. He would really like to hear that.
I was on my way to pick her up from school, Your Honor.
Had you gone anywhere else that day?
No, I haven't.
You just stayed home and watched Oprah?
Yeah, I guess. That's what you say.
No, you tell me what you did.
Oh, well, I didn't watch Oprah, but
What
I
did you watch?
TV.
You watched me.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Like I said, like
you would have watched me more frequently, Dion, you would never be here today. Never.
That's true.
Happened.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so you went to pick her up from school, and what happened?
I was at a four-way stop. I stopped at the stop sign, looked both ways, looked forward. Nobody was going. So I started going. Here comes a car. Bam. Took off the front end, airbags, everything.
Okay, so this car came out of nowhere.
Well, it was sitting at the stoplight, at a stop sign, when I looked left, and it wasn't going. So I just barely tapped on the gas, just started going. And then here comes this Mustang out of nowhere.
The plaintiff says you got a ticket for failing to yield.
True.
So then I guess the accident was your...
No.
Did you pay the ticket?
No, I didn't.
Did you have a trial?
Yes.
Were you found guilty or not guilty?
I didn't go.
Well, if you didn't go, then you were found guilty?
No, I wasn't, because they still got the insurance money. I proved
We're not
my
talking
point.
about insurance money, we're talking about ticket. You got a ticket for failure to yield. My question is a very simple one, Dion. You have to pay attention. I know you've been resting your brain for a long time, so you should be able to pay attention to what I'm saying to you. You got a ticket. Did you pay the ticket?
No, I didn't pay the ticket.
Was the ticket dismissed?
Yes.
Was it dismissed after a hearing?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't even want to go there anymore. Right? All right. So that's the first accident. And that car was totaled. You had a $500 deductible.
Correct.
When your daughter called you and told you that the boyfriend had totaled the car, what did you say to her?
I didn't know the boyfriend had totaled the car right at first. It was some time before I found all the facts.
She told you she had totaled the car?
She said it had been wrecked.
How did she tell you it had been wrecked?
It went through a stop
It went
intersection. The road conditions were icy, had a lot of ice on the road.
Who did she tell you was driving?
I finally dragged it out of her that he had been driving.
Did you lie to your mother, Jennifer?
I had just told her that I was the one who got in the wreck because I didn't want to have to
deal with...
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with the whole...
All right, now that was January 26th. And then you said, okay, I'm going to get her another car because she needs a car to go to school.
Right.
How much money does your husband make?
Not enough to be buying her a car every year or two because he wrecked it.
Now, when did you wreck this second car, Dion?
On or about May 20th.
Tell me about that.
I had dropped Jennifer off at approximately 10 o'clock p.m.
Where?
At her friend's house. Told her specifically...
Was this a Saturday or a Sunday?
Saturday.
Where were you working then?
I was, believe...
That's not so long ago, sir. Where are you working now?
Painting.
Portraits? Houses?
No, houses.
Houses. You're going to have to stop paying me if you enjoy this job so much. When did you start painting houses?
3 months ago.
So that would bring you into June. Now, so in May, were you working?
No, I wasn't. I was in search of a job due to previous legal problems.
What kind of legal problems?
Truthfully?
No, I want you to lie to me.
I mean, I can if you want me to. I'm not going to,
Don't
though.
be a wise guy, sir. I will grind you into the carpet.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
In between painting and meatpacking, you were distributing marijuana.
No, I did a favor for somebody.
Don't hook yourself up with a loser. If you hook yourself up with a loser, you're a loser.
And later today,
the reason I said that it wasn't my responsibility to pay for the bills was because it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't an accident, Ms. Peters. That's your problem.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen Levi says her daughter's ex-boyfriend, Dion Burdett, crashed 2 of her cars. Helen says on the second occasion, Dion was driving drunk.
Go ahead.
I got a felony and
For
about
what?
distributing marijuana, 1 ounce, 10 to 30 grams.
That's what you were doing. Now I understand. In between painting and meatpacking, you were distributing marijuana.
No, I did a favor for somebody that I thought was a friend and obviously wasn't, and told on me, and I got in trouble for it.
So it was somebody else's fault?
No, it wasn't anybody else's fault but my own for trusting somebody else.
So you were doing a favor for somebody, you weren't going to get paid for it?
Right.
You weren't going to get a piece of the action for it? At least if you were selling it and making some money, I could understand that. You're a real idiot. All right. So now you're looking for a job. And in May, you drop her off at a friend's house and told her...
Specifically that I was going to a local bar and have a few drinks and I'd be home early. Turns out I had a few too many and got a DUI. I blew up .242, had a fatal accident, could have ended my life. Life-changing experience.
Just a second. Wasn't fatal?
No, it wasn't fatal. I mean,
you have
it could
to
have
watch
been.
your words with me.
Right.
You have to watch your words.
Sorry.
You didn't kill anybody.
Let me get it. No, I didn't kill anybody, but it could have easily happened. I ran into a pole going 70 miles an hour.
So why aren't you responsible for the car, sir?
She willingly gave me the car knowing I was going to the bar. I didn't pressure her. I didn't put a gun to her head and say, give me the car. She said, okay, be back early. And I accept full responsibility for drinking and driving.
That's okay, because I'm going to enjoy this. Just go ahead and do your thing.
So your defense is that it was not your fault that you were given the car because she should have said, you can't take the car if you're going to drink. Leave the car here and go, take a bus to go to the bar.
I accept full responsibility for drinking and driving. I'm paying for it dearly. I have the papers right here to prove it.
How are you paying for it?
I have 100 hours community service. I have $1,900 in fines, and I lose my license for a year or maybe more.
Well, how does that help Miss Levi?
I've given Jennifer $600 already.
You've given her $6, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you accept responsibility for this accident. It's not Jennifer's fault.
No.
Jennifer is stupid.
It's not Jennifer's
Jennifer's going to read the book, cover to cover, backwards and forwards. Don't hook yourself up with a loser. If you hook yourself up with a loser, you're a loser. What kind of school are you going to?
At the moment, I'm just working full-time. I'm trying to save money so I can go back to school.
If you're going to school and moving forward and your family is trying to help you get there, you don't hook up with a loser who's unemployed. You don't hook up with was he arrested for this distributing marijuana while he was living with you?
No, that was way before I met him.
But you knew about it?
I did find out about it eventually.
Well, it seems to me Dion kept a lot of things from you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,400. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her mother has not liked me because I'm not fully white.
Not at all.
Out of 3 years I've dated her daughter, she has not said one word to me.
He's irresponsible. He's a user. He's a manipulator.
Her attitude towards me, I don't feel that I owe her a damn dime.
He's taken my daughter for everything she could possibly give.
She's 11 weeks pregnant right now.
I am going to have a child with him. I mean, I have to do what I can to get along with him.
You love your children, you do what you can for them.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Thompson versus Peters. Step forward, please.
Rebecca Thompson is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, Miranda Peters, for medical bills. Rebecca says Miranda's boy broke her son's arm while roughhousing.
Your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand next to you. Who was the basketball player? What's your first name?
Keith.
And yours?
Michael.
Your arm got broken in school.
Yes, ma'am.
Your arm got broken when he bumped into you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
Well, I was trying to get into the game and pretty much...
When did this happen?
March 17th of 04.
You were trying to get into what game?
The basketball game. In PE that day, it was pretty much a free day. And I was trying to get into the game, and they were pretty much just shoving me off.
Who was?
All the players. So I would steal the ball and run away with it, trying to be funny, and all the players would chase me.
So what I'm hearing is neither team wanted you to play that day, so you decided to play class clown and steal the ball and interrupt their game.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened next?
Well, all the players pretty much chased me down and eventually got it from me, and while I was standing in the crowd, he gestured for the other players to clear a path to me, and when he did, he tossed the ball at me. And whenever I saw it was coming at me, I just tensed up and turned, and it hit me in my left hip.
Didn't hurt you?
No, ma'am.
And then what happened?
I just sort of walked up to him. Behind him was a gym mat, pretty thick and soft. So I wrapped my arms around him and purposely fell onto the gym mat. Everybody was laughing, and he did the same thing to me. And
you wrestled him, then he wrestled you to the ground, to the mat.
It was not an act of anger.
Okay. So you weren't angry with him?
No, ma'am.
And you don't think he was angry with you?
No, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened next?
Well, there was a rolled up gym mat close to the compacted bleachers to the wall, and I got in between that and just for the thrill of not being seen, and about 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't understand what that means. Just for the thrill of not being seen.
Just a childly...
No, well, what were you doing?
Nothing.
You mean you were hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you hiding from?
Nobody.
Keith.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, I'm getting a whole good story. I love this story so far. He wasn't angry with you, you weren't angry with him, but now you're hiding someplace and you're not hiding from anybody.
Well,
that doesn't sound like you could...
Well, I mean, me and my friend Anthony were both doing it, and he was behind another one to the right of me, and about...
What were you doing?
Just hiding.
Just hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And, well, I tried to get out, and I pulled... It was kind of tight into there, so I was trying to wheeze my way out, and I pulled my my left arm across my chest, and about that time I just felt the mat be shoved into me.
The mat being shoved into you by...
By Michael.
And that's how you broke your arm?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Michael, what happened?
I rammed the mat. I wasn't intentionally trying to break his arm. I was just horseplaying with him, like we were earlier. And
so you were horseplaying?
Yeah.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Peters, your defense to this says, let me read it so that I make sure I get your language clear. I told her that with children, and particularly with boys, these things happen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain that to me.
The reason I said that boys will be boys and that it wasn't my responsibility to pay for the bills was because it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't an accident, Ms. Peters. That's your problem, you see. If your son was playing a game and during the course of the game he ran into this structure, not intending to come into contact with Keith at all, but it was during the course of a game and he was at a place where he could get hurt, that's an accident. But that's not what your son told me. Your son told me he saw him there and he was just fooling around with him and rammed him. Unfortunately, when he rammed him, his arm was in such a position that it broke. Okay. So his action, not in breaking his arm, I don't think he intended to break his arm, of course not. But he intended to hit him. And for that, he is responsible. Just as if he had broken his leg when he tackled him to the mat. Horseplay. But when young people are involved in horseplay, and if you had broken his leg, who would have been responsible?
I would have.
You're right. What were your medical expenses?
Before or after insurance?
After insurance.
After insurance, the total was $706.07.
I'm not saying that your son bears any responsibility with regard to this incident, but I believe he has to know that when 10 people are playing basketball, you're not supposed to act like a jerk, right?
Yes, ma'am. We've already established that.
Good. You know, Michael, sometimes when you do the wrong thing, things happen. There are consequences, even those that you don't anticipate. You got to start being a two-process thinker and say, listen, if I do this, this could happen. It's not worth it. Being a fool is not worth it. Being a fool isn't worth it. How long was your arm in a cast?
6 weeks.
And this happened in March, so it was during school.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't even get to relax. When did you get the cast off?
I'm not sure.
End of April.
So you got a chance to enjoy the summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You still friends?
I think so.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff amounts to $706.
Now, this is case number 243 on the calendar in the matter of Lappick versus Nielsen.
Thank you, Bird.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Lappick, are you together or are you separated?
We're divorced.
When were you divorced?
In May of 2005.
So you are living separately or not living separately?
Separately.
I let her stay in my house and she rents from me.
You don't live there?
No.
When was this incident that brings you to court?
July 23rd.
So it was after your divorce?
Right.
According to your complaint, Mr. Nielsen was at that time a boyfriend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of you had been out with some other friends. Subsequently, you invited a group of people back to your house, according to what I read, And you decided not to go back home. You decided to go and check in with your ex-husband. And it is your complaint that Mr. Nielsen, probably because he got angry, trashed the house you were living in. And since it's your ex-husband's house, he is a co-plaintiff. Is that about right?
Yes.
Who went out that evening?
It was me, Jim Nielsen, Jay, one of my friends, and Justin, another one of my friends. We ended up going to the bar, and then we all went to a restaurant to eat. And Chris was at the restaurant. And I called his phone, he called my phone, we were arguing.
What were you arguing about?
We just always argue about...
Well, you were
everything.
divorced already, so why were you arguing? Do you have children together?
No.
No.
Just because she still lives in my house and we still have contact with each other.
Why do you let her live in your house?
Because her and her son, I didn't want them to have to go out and find a place because it's more expensive.
Okay, how old a child do you have?
2.5.
Not your child?
No.
How long were you married?
Only like 5 months.
7 or 8 months.
Well, I'm not exactly sure because we got legally separated first.
We'll do 4 months.
All right, so you were arguing with Chris in July, on the 23rd of July. You were having dinner with a group of people. What happened next?
Justin, he was my roommate. I ended up having him and his friend drop me off at Chris's house.
Why are you laughing? What's funny?
Because I'm stupid.
Oh.
But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got dropped off at his house, and Justin said that he was going back to his friend's house to watch some movies.
I let one of her friends also move in there to help her with the rent.
So Justin was your roommate in your house?
Exactly.
Okay, so you went to Chris's house, and your roommate Justin dropped you off at Chris's house.
Right.
How long did you stay at Chris's house?
I stayed the night.
Where was your child at that point?
At his father's.
Does he live with you or his father?
He lives with me.
Okay, so you stayed the night with your ex-husband. And what happened when you got home?
My front porch railing was ripped off. The door frame was cracked all the way down the side, and the screws were out. The door was like, I don't know, it wouldn't shut. It was wide open. There was a huge hole in the wall. I have pictures.
I'd like to see the pictures.
There were eggs, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, cereal, bread, milk, cough syrup, all over my walls, all over my rugs.
What makes you think that Jim here was responsible for this damage?
Well, he always wears a wife beater under any of his shirts.
What does he wear?
Oh, wife beater. It's like a tank top.
What is that called?
It's a wife beater, isn't it?
shirt. Is that what the T-shirt says on it, or is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
I never
believe.
heard that. Did you
Is
ever hear
what
that?
it's called?
Yep.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you.
A tank top shirt? Man wears a tank top shirt. It's called a wife beater?
It's just plain white. It's like a 3-finger.
White or wife?
Wife.
Wife?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So I found that in my house. It was covered in everything that was all over my floors and walls, and it was ripped off. And Jim, when he goes out and drinks and when he gets mad, he rips off his shirt and just throws it wherever. So I knew that was him. So I called him, and I told him, I said, Jim, I said, why'd you destroy my house? He's like, oh, I didn't. I'm like, you tell me you didn't destroy my house. I said, I found this. My entire house is trashed. He's like, I don't know. I didn't do it. I said, well, I'm calling the cops. So I called the police, and then after I was waiting for the police to show up, Chris called Jim back, and...
What happened when you called him back?
I called him up. I was angry. I knew it was obviously something to do with the fact that she left with me. So, and I knew it was probably him and his friends.
How long had you dated him before that evening?
3 weeks.
So,
Go ahead.
I called him up and, I was yelling. I'm like, what's going on? You come into my house, destroy my house. He goes, first he said I didn't, then he goes, well, I was mad. He said something like, I was drunk, I was mad. Something along those lines. But he admitted to it. We called the police. He admitted that the police officers came over.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to read it. Thank you. All right, Jim, I'm with you.
I didn't do nothing. I woke up with stuff all over me.
You went back to her house?
Yeah, Justin had the key, and we were drinking there for a little bit, and I passed out. I wake up, I got all this stuff all over, eggs and stuff all over me. I didn't know what happened, holes in the wall and everything. And she's saying I admitted to it. I never admitted to nothing, to the cops at all.
You're John.
Yep.
Jim, John, and Justin. You were there that evening?
No, the following day I was there. They came to my apartment.
Who did?
I came to his apartment in the morning.
Justin's the one that brought it up to me. What I think is Justin had the key.
Just a minute, I don't care what you think. What you think is irrelevant. When you finish law school, you can get a job as a judge. And hopefully somebody will care about what you think. I just want you to tell me what you heard and what you saw.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All right, let me see the estimate. Come on, I had enough. Let's go. Got other fish to fry today.
And later today,
somebody rode on his car and vandalized it. It was, I'm speaking. You may get away with that with your wife. You don't get away with it with me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Lopick and her ex-husband Christopher claim Jennifer's ex-boyfriend James Nielsen destroyed their home in a drunken rage.
Go ahead.
I heard the house got trashed, and I took Justin back to the house, and I seen it.
Good, thank you. Now, did you speak to the police?
Yeah, on the phone.
Listen to me. Do you know the police in Auburn, New York?
Yes.
You think they have it in for you?
No.
They don't know you. They don't care about you, right? The police say that you said he was drunk and did some and said he would pay for all the damages.
I didn't say I paid for all the damages.
Okay, there we go. Oh, God, my life is so beautiful. What? Okay, what
I
did
said
you...
I would fix the damages.
Oh, okay.
If...
Oh, just a second. So you didn't say you would pay for the damage, you said you would fix the damage.
Yes.
So that's what you told them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you acknowledge that you did some of the damage?
Yeah. Well, I didn't do all the damages, you know.
I don't care whether you did some or all.
I'm not going to be, you know, the one paying for all the damages, though, you know. There's other people there.
Well, then this is what you have to do, Jim.
I call her and tell her I was going to come fix it, and she's like, oh, no, I can't do it now. I don't want you to fix it. I got somebody else to fix it.
What do you
I bought all this stuff to go fix it.
What do you do for a living?
Huh? I got 2 jobs. I work at MKM, and I'm an electrician.
What's MKM?
Trucking business.
But you're not a carpenter.
No. I can still do it, though.
Are you a brain surgeon?
No.
You wouldn't try that, would you?
No.
I mean, if somebody said, you know, here's Bird, he needs a little brain surgery, you wouldn't say, I'm going to try. Not what I do, but I'll give it a try. Wouldn't do that. And so they're entitled to have a professional carpenter fix that. They don't have to accept your offer to fix it yourself.
But the railing wasn't all broke. It came all off. The screws just fell out of it. That's all that happened.
When you commit a crime, sir, you don't get to choose your punishment.
Your Honor, I told him he could fix it, and we went a month of him not doing anything, and then I said, well, we'll just do a payment of $527, because that's what I estimated myself.
$527, an odd number to estimate.
But then...
Isn't that an odd number to estimate?
But,
$527, no sense. No. Just $527.
Just figured, yeah, I know.
All right, let me see the estimate. Come on, I had enough. Let's go. Got other fish to fry today.
Yeah.
This is not an estimate. This is something that you prepared.
That's all the personal stuff.
Eggs, your food estimate, your eggs, a pudding, Jell-O, mayonnaise, bread, a gallon of milk. You know what that comes under the category of? You know what you said to me before when I asked you why you were smiling? Remember what you said? Because you were...
Okay. Stupid. All right.
Go buy your own eggs. That is pretty stupid. Why didn't you take pictures of the way the rest of the place looked? Hama?
Because Chris went and bought a camera, and we were supposed to take pictures of the house while it was fully destroyed before I cleaned it. And he said, well, since the cops came and Jim admitted to doing it, then we don't need to take pictures, and would not take it out of his car
Why
to take
not?
pictures.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. All right. Did you get the place fixed?
We got everything cleaned up, but we didn't get it fixed yet. Not all the...
I cleaned the house. I didn't get anything fixed yet.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all. Don't be stupid.
Sorry, excused. You may step out.
That same night, she went out with me to the movies and all that, and was with me for other weeks after that.
Before I even left the restaurant, I told them that I was going to his house.
She called my phone and went to my house.
I drank a few beers and I passed out.
The next day I show up and my front porch is missing.
I woke up with stuff all over me and I was off.
Oh, I was mad. Very angry.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of White versus Flores. Step forward.
Russell White is suing his neighbor, Adalberto Flores, for the cost to fix his car. Russell says Adalberto's daughters wrote on the vehicle with chalk.
Mr. Flores, we thought it best that your 4-year-old little girl, who was the subject of this case, was outside. She appeared to me to be a little bit upset about being here. I don't think it's necessary for her to be here. If it is, I'll have to see her in chambers. Clear?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. White, you and Mr. Flores are neighbors,
Yes.
and your children played together for some period of time until recently.
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that Mr. Flores is responsible for some damage that his daughters did to your car.
Yes.
You fixed the car, and you really want Mr. Flores to pay your insurance deductible, which is $500.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Flores says that there's no evidence that his girls caused any damage to your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who caused the damage to your car and when, Mr. White?
Well, on October the 13th, I was working 3 to 11. When I came home that evening, I noticed some damage on my car.
You have photographs of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. What was it, chalk?
It was chalk, and it was like someone had scribbled on the back of it.
It's hard to see in these photographs.
Yeah, it's
but
hard because of the color of the car.
Yeah, but I do see sort of circular motions.
Yes.
Got it. Now, you weren't there. What makes you think his girls did the damage?
I have a witness that saw this occur.
Well, then I'll hear the witness. Bert, can we get a witness? I assume they're outside.
How you doing?
Swear the witness, please.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record, please.
Alfredo Warren.
Mr. Warren, are you a neighbor of these people?
No, ma'am. I stay in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay. Mr. White said you observed something that happened with his car.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a friend of his?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing near his house?
I was up there visiting with some friends, and on this particular day, I was sitting in the car while someone else went in the house. And I just noticed 2 small kids of they wasn't black, but they was like maybe mixed or Mexican or some kind of race. And the smallest one was riding on the car from like the trunk part, and I seen her go around the side.
And what was the other one doing?
Sitting like on the sidewalk.
Go ahead.
So the next day, when I was coming back to drop this girl off, I so happened to see the person that was getting to the car that had been rode on.
Was that this gentleman?
It was this gentleman. So I asked him, did he have kids? And I said, well, I think I seen your kids riding on your car. And so he said, no, it wasn't my kids, but my car was vandalized yesterday. And I told him if he needed any help, I just gave my number. And then I got a call at work, and I heard about the whole issue.
Would you recognize those children again?
Yeah, probably if I seen them, yes, ma'am.
Would you recognize the older child?
Well, I mainly just seen the small one riding on the car.
Did you see the one who was sitting down?
She was like at the head of the car. So I just noticed a head, you know, like you just glance, because I'm looking through my rearview mirror. And so that's how I seen it.
Do you recognize this young lady here?
I don't know if that's the youngest one. Because she was shorter, and this was like, it's been like some months ago.
Okay. Bird, would you take Mr. Warren outside to where Mr. Flores' youngest daughter is and ask him if he has seen her before? Okay?
All right.
Mr. Warren, why don't you go with Officer Bird? Now, before Mr. Warren comes back, you step up here. Right over here. You hop up in that chair. Tell me your name.
Jessica.
All right, Jessica. So before this gets any worse, did your sister ride on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Do you know anybody who damaged Mr. White's car?
No.
And you weren't present that day, sitting there while your little sister either took a piece of chalk or anything else and rode on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Go and have a seat. All right, Mr. Warren, did you see the little girl who was outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize that little girl?
That's the child. That's the one I seen.
That's the little girl who rode on the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to October 13th, you had never met the plaintiff, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you positive that the other young lady that you saw outside, the little 4-year-old?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one I seen right on the car.
Okay. What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Flores?
They running a game.
What?
I said they running a game because she don't go outside without her sister. So I don't know what he talking about that he see my only 4-year-old outside.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. Nobody's running a game. Your daughter fibbed to you. This one. This man doesn't know him. I believe him. That's my job.
Oh, okay.
To determine who's telling the truth.
All right.
He didn't say to me, yes, I recognize her. He said, I'm not sure. It's been a while ago.
Right.
But when he went outside and saw your little girl, who he was watching right on the car, he was able to identify her, and I believe him. So you better have your girls a little bit more in check. Anything else you want to say to me?
Yeah, I think she didn't do it.
Well, you keep going in that direction, and you're going to be standing in court a lot with your daughters. A lot. I've given you all the reasons. Somebody rode on his car and vandalized it.
Well,
It was... I'm speaking. You may get away with that with your wife. You don't get away with it with me. We have an independent witness who saw 2 children, one older, one younger. The younger one was riding on the car. And he says there's no question in his mind it was your daughter. And you said, I don't believe it. Why? Your daughters never lied to you?
No.
Baloney.
They ain't the only ones that live in. They ain't the only little girls that live in the block.
Just a second. He said it was your daughter. Certainly they're not the only children living on the block.
He don't even live around there.
Oh, you're an
He
idiot.
live in Sound Bay.
You're an idiot. You're going to spend a lot of time in court, both for yourself and your children. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, case number 226 on the calendar in the matter of Elmore versus Padilla. Advisor been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Elmore, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you loaned her the money to make her mortgage payment for about a year.
Yes, ma'am. It was about 10 months, probably. Yes, ma'am.
And you loaned her that money with the understanding that if she did not pay you back, the title to the mobile home would be put in your name.
Yes, ma'am. Either or, some kind of assurance that I'd get something out of it.
And Ms. Padilla says that there was never an agreement that you paid her mortgage, but that was like rent because you were, in fact, living there. Now, explain to me how it came about that your sister and your mother were together in this mobile home.
Well, I moved to Mexico, and after I moved there, my sister had my mother move in with her. I was down there about 5.5 to 6 months. I came back in like July.
Where did you stay when you came back to work in July of 2004?
For the first probably month and a half, I stayed at her trailer.
So from, let's say, July and August.
In August, I was in California, in San Francisco.
When in August?
The 1st of August, I got a job traveling, working in refineries.
So you spent 1 month with your sister and your mother?
Probably about that.
Is that about right?
I wasn't there during that timeout.
Who was there?
She was there, ma'am.
All right, so you say she was there. So you lived there for a month in July. When did you have this conversation with her about the mortgage?
I'd say it was in June. The end of June.
So before you moved in?
Yeah, I was still in Mexico before we had this conversation.
So in Mexico, she called you and said what?
That she's a couple of months behind on her payment. They're about to repossess it, and she moved my mom in with her, and I didn't want my mom to be, stuck out because she didn't pay her bills.
So
I came back, and I got a job building swimming pools and started paying, And she said that she wasn't working because she was waiting on a workman's comp thing to come through, which after a while,
don't speak to him. At my stage in life, I can only hear one person talk at a time.
Yes,
otherwise, I get confused.
But after a while, waiting on her workman's comp or whatever to start up so she could pay her own bills, it got kind of old. And she was quite a bit behind, about $1,100, I believe.
You were living in the trailer for the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would assume, at least for the month of July, you were going to pay some rent.
Yes, ma'am, but this month of July, I was paying a month of May's rent. I was paying her back payment.
If you paid her the back payment for the month of May, how much did you pay for rent in July when you were living there?
Well, I never had a set payment, I guess I would owe for that month of rent, but...
I guess you might.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were working, right?
But see, none of that... Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You don't think that she should pay for a time when you were living there and not paying rent?
Yes, ma'am, but I was paying her bills too, evidently, because she was not working. She had no income coming in whatsoever.
How much in total did you pay towards this trailer?
Trailer and utilities?
Trailer.
Trailer, I don't really have an exact
on just a trailer, but I would just send money orders, and whatever they put it on, that was that.
That was nice of you. I don't hear anything about a loan.
Yes, ma'am. That's what all this was a loan.
Well, that's what you're telling me, sir. That's not what they tell me.
Yes, ma'am. But I would not have come back, to pay all her bills. I was living in motels this entire time.
Not in July.
No, I got that job in August.
Not in July.
Or the past 5 months.
Listen to me. Shh. Where have you been living the last 5 months?
A couple of months I was there. But then she got mad because I wouldn't let her use my cell phone, so she told me to get out of her house. She ended up calling the police to have me removed.
Miss Padilla?
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, my roommate here, he was having to loan me money because I was sending all my checks
I'm
in.
talking about the last 5 months, Mr. Elmore. Where were you living?
I've been living with him for the last month and a half. And a little while I had to live in a shed next door to the house, believe it or not. The night after she called the police, they made me leave and told me I couldn't come back. I stayed in the shed for about 3 weeks.
Mr. Elmore, you and I are not coming together on the same wavelength.
Yes, ma'am.
It's explained to me why you have a case of a loan.
Well, because
all of those things.
I paid off her trailer payment. Her trailer got paid for, and it all came from me, ma'am. Over $4,000 worth, and I was not living there.
Oh, Mr. Elmore.
I didn't have it separated.
Mr. Elmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an argument with your sister?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
What was the argument about, Mr. Elmore?
It started over the cell phone. She asked to borrow my cell phone, I wouldn't let her.
Why?
I don't know.
You didn't feel like letting her?
Yes, ma'am.
So
I had no reason, but I just told her no. So
fine.
She told me to get out of her house, and I told her no. I said I paid all this. So she said it's in her name, and
so she said it's in her name. Get out of my house.
Yeah, exactly. I refused to leave. Well, she called the police.
And what happened when the police got there?
They made me leave. I left.
Is that when you filed this lawsuit?
It was a few days after that, when I was living in that shed. I was watching the TV, and I just happened to see your show, and afterwards I called.
What is your last name?
Elmore.
Miss Elmore, who do you live with now?
I live in the trailer with my daughter.
What about her?
She has moved into the trailer with me and my daughter. She lived there.
So that when I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a full answer. You live in the trailer with your daughter and this lady?
Yes.
Who else lives there?
Just the 3 of us now.
Who pays the bills?
All 3 of us. Yes, ma'am.
Now, who was paying the bills, say, last July, August, September, October, November? Was your son paying the bills?
My son paid a lot. He did. I have never denied that, but I was paying too. It wasn't just Mike paying.
And your son contributed, according to him, some $4,000 over a 13-month period. Is that right?
Actually, it was more than that, but I've lost several receipts.
Now, Mr. Elmore,
yes, ma'am.
Would you be here today if it wasn't for this cell phone incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It had been going through my mind for a long time, because I wanted my money back.
Well, you're not going to get all your money back, sir. You lived there for
I'm aware of that.
You lived there for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
Ma'am, he came back in March, and he did not leave again until the end of August, the last week of August.
No,
March, April, May, June, July, so it's 6 months.
Not the last week of August. It was about the middle of
August.
So the date on the last receipt I had was 5/5 of 05.
Just a second.
So that's May. That's not March, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying your mother is a liar? She says you were there March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So is what you're telling me that your mother is lying to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying I was not there then.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What you're annoyed about is that your sister told you to leave, so you got annoyed. And then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha!
And later today...
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he never drank.
Never?
He never drank during our relationship. I drank.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Elmore says his sister, Shauna Padilla, owes for loans to make her mortgage payments. Shauna is countersuing for damages to her property.
Now, tell me, in March, he came back for how long?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe. And then he left out for the job. He never actually got to work on that job. He got sent back right after that.
And when did he come back?
I probably at the end of March.
So was he living in the trailer in April?
Yes, ma'am.
May?
Yes, ma'am.
June?
Yes, ma'am.
July.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of August.
No, ma'am,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
not.
And part of August.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the previous July, he was there when he came back from Mexico.
Yes, ma'am.
For 1 month.
Yes.
Miss Judy, she says that I was there before then. When like I said, I got the date on the first receipt that I paid is 7/14/04. I was paying a May 15th bill because when she called me, she was 3 months back.
Listen to me, Mr. Elmore.
She got her dates confused, ma'am.
No, Mr. Elmore, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister does not deny, nor will she deny to me today, that she called you and said, I've gotten behind in my bills.
I didn't call him, ma'am.
Or contacted him, or whatever, and said, I need some help. She's not denying that you gave her some help because the mortgage was behind. What your family is saying to you is you lived there for a longer period than you've indicated to me today, not just a couple of days, which you say in your complaint, you know, that your employer pays for your motel and that's where you were living, that you were living there for a period of at least, according to both your mother, who I believe, and your sister, July, part of March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So at least 6.5 months. And for that, living there for all of that time, you contributed $4,200. That's pretty reasonable. You have a roof over your head, you have gas, you have electric, you have food, you have whatever else it takes. And if you helped your family out for another 3.5 months, you don't come in here and bother me about that. What you're annoyed about is that your sister, for whatever reason, after you said she couldn't use your cell phone, told you to leave. So you got annoyed, and then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha! I'm going to go and file a small claims court case. Mr. Elmore,
Well,
Mr. Elmore, get a life. Case is dismissed.
These are excused. You may step out.
Excuse me.
I have a counterclaim.
It's dismissed.
Okay.
If he bothered you, annoyed you for a year, and you let him bother you and annoy you for the year, that makes you not too smart.
I moved out of the state to get
Very
away from him.
good. That's exactly what you should do.
She got a free trailer, that's what happened.
I paid plenty for that trailer.
She got a heck of a ride off of me.
I have also done many, many things to contribute towards his welfare growing up.
My mother was there, you know? I mean, she wasn't doing nothing to help him.
It breaks my heart.
Don't trust no family member.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Evans versus Fry Leach. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Brandy Evans is suing Kathleen Fry and her ex-boyfriend, Patrick Leach, for damage to her car. Brandy claims Patrick was riding his bike when he crashed into her parked vehicle.
Miss Fry, are you the neighbor of the plaintiff?
And not of the plaintiff, of the plaintiff's witness.
And this is your boyfriend?
Ex-boyfriend, yes.
How long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Since about last November.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
About 18 years.
That took you a long time to decide he wasn't the right one. Huh?
Sometimes you don't think.
Was there any particular reason why you terminated the relationship?
We just weren't getting along anymore.
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he never drank.
Never?
Before we started going out, he drank, but he never drank during our relationship. I drank.
Now, you were riding a bicycle.
Yes, ma'am.
With your girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you been riding?
We usually rode 10 to 15 miles a night, just around our neighborhood and just around our block and so on and so forth.
And at what time of the evening did you return to the house?
It was probably between 8 and 8:30 in the evening.
So it was dark?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always ride at night?
Yes, we did. It
You
was
have
mostly
lights
at
on
night.
your bikes?
No, we don't.
Are you supposed to?
Yes, we are.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Do you wear a helmet?
Yes, I do.
For what?
Safety reasons, in case somebody pulls out in front of me and
Right.
Right.
That's why you have lights on bikes if you're going to be riding at night. And so tell me what happened, Mr. Leach.
Our street was very dark. It has no street lights. I was pedaling, and her car is the color of night. It blended in, and it was parked, if I could show you on the diagram, it was parked probably a little farther back, but to me, it was illegally parked. And it was on a corner. I was pedaling, and I looked up, and next thing you know, under the tree, next thing you know, I hit the front end of the car.
Okay, so Mr. Leach, we are talking now about certain things that you can do nothing about, because as night follows day, that's science. And in science, it's going to get dark outside. So when you're driving a vehicle, what they do is when a vehicle is operating, they put lights on the car so that you can see where you're going after night falls, right? So it's not the night's fault that you hit the car. Now, cars can be painted in many colors. It's not the car's fault that it was painted the color of night, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the car's fault that it was that color. Now, how long do you think this big tree has been living on the corner?
I couldn't tell you.
10 years?
Since before he moved in.
Yeah.
The tree didn't move, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the tree's fault that you hit her car. And the last thing that you said was her car, you believe, was parked illegally.
True.
But the car didn't move.
Correct.
There was only one thing that was moving. Mr. Leach, that would be you.
I totally agree.
Now, Miss Evans, tell me, you were awakened to the alarm going off in your car?
No, we were watching a movie. I was over at my friend's house.
And what
happened? It was around 11 p.m. and I heard my alarm going off.
So the alarm did go off as a result of being hit?
Yes. So I walked out, and they weren't near my car. They were walking away from my car. And I walked down and looked at my fog light, and my fog light was broken on the ground. And I walked back up halfway to the driveway, and that's when Kathy stopped me.
Had you known her before that evening?
No.
So you never met her before?
No.
She walked up to you and said?
And said, we were riding our bikes, and my boyfriend hit your car. And I looked over at him, and he was laying on the grass with his bike.
That's not true.
And
shh, Mr. Leach. Shh, Mr. Leach, look at me.
And Kathy said she was going to run and go get her information, and that she did not want to go through the police. She did not want to go through insurance. That she wanted to pay cash. And she walked back over and said he had some to drink, and that here's her information to put estimates in her mailbox, and that she would get back to me. And she gave me her number. She gave me her work phone, her cell phone.
Miss Fry, did you write down your telephone number, your work number?
I gave her my business card.
What did you give her your business card for?
For the purpose of, I had walked over and explained that he had hit the car and that he was lying on the ground because he had hurt himself when the bike hit the car. And I said, I will get you the information and you can get estimates and the two of you can work it out. I brought her the information back over. I never stated that he was drinking because he wasn't. And I never stated that I would pay her cash because I am not the one that hit the car.
What do you want to say?
I was standing there and listened to her state that she would pay Brandy in cash to settle the matter.
Tell me your last name.
Curran.
How long had you been neighbors, Miss Curran?
I've lived there approximately 6 years.
Okay. Mr. Leach.
Yes, ma'am.
There is no reason why Miss Fry should take responsibility for this.
Exactly.
So if the court were going to enter a judgment, it would have to be a judgment against you.
Correct.
So that, Miss Fry, you may sit down. Thank you. Now, sir, you're there all on your own. In 10 seconds, give me your best shot as to why you're not responsible for this.
I never said I was not responsible. I hit the car. But what I am disputing is they brought over estimates for $1,400 for the car, which to me was a little outrageous. We told them to get another estimate in a local place. They've done work on our cars before, and they were more reasonable. They've probably given a reasonable rate. They never went there.
Mr. Leach, let me stop.
Sure.
A second. Is it that you don't like the amount of money that she's asking for because you believe it's excessive, or that you don't believe you're responsible?
The amount of money, and then we had an estimate for $1,400 and $1,600. Now it's $1,800.
Well, now she's going to show me the estimates.
I have
and the photographs.
The first estimate that I gave them, that was for the $1,400. When I gave it to her, she asked me to go and get another one with their body, a place, and it shows it was only a month afterwards, not even a month after the accident, that I have for that quote.
Just a second. What was the name of the body shop where you wanted them to go?
Boulevard.
This is one of those from Boulevard?
Yes, and that's my third one.
Can I see it, please?
We never got that one.
We never got those.
Shh. I don't care whether you did or not. Now I have them. So am I correct? Boulevard gives you $621.72?
Mm-hmm. That was just the paint that they said. They didn't say anything about the hood. That is, I have pictures of my hood and where it's not aligned with the other side from where he fell on it. And
Your Honor, I did not fall on the hood.
I have your handlebar marks on my hood.
Well, there is damage to the hood. All right, anything you want to say?
I just, I want to know. She got an estimate from Boulevard, for just paint. Well, you know what? If I'm going to get an estimate for the body work, I'm just not going to ask for paint for the $600 and something. I'm going to say, hey, it's just, I need the body work done. I don't understand that.
I went in and asked for an estimate, and that's what they gave me. I didn't ask them just to do paint.
Did you ask them for an estimate to fix it or to paint it?
To fix it. I said I needed it fixed.
The damage to this car can't be done for $600. She's got something wrong with the hood of the car that's going to have to be pulled out, painted if it's going to be done right. The $1,300 is a reasonable estimate. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,360.64. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 201 on the calendar in the matter of McDaniel versus Julius. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. McDaniel, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is really a simple one, and your complaint is that you made 2 loans to your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she has not paid you back. Your daughter says that these were not loans, they were really gifts. But the matter becomes more complicated because of the nature of the loans that you claim to your daughter. Miss Julius, you had a daughter who was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
When was she murdered?
September 24th. She was found dead in her room.
In your home?
In our home.
Has the perpetrator of that murder ever been found?
There are 3 people apprehended as of right now for first-degree murder.
How old was your daughter?
17.
According to you, Miss McDaniel, you went to where your daughter was living, and your daughter did not have money for burial.
That's right.
You agreed to loan her the money for the burial.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, your daughter, who was not happy staying in the same house where her daughter was murdered, which is quite understandable because people had not been apprehended at that time, asked if she could relocate. And you agreed to loan her some money.
Yes, ma'am.
So that she could relocate. What was the extent of those 2 sums of money? The funeral was how much?
$4,582.27.
And how much did you advance your daughter to relocate?
$1,487.68.
The matter becomes more complicated because at some point, Miss Julius, you ascertained that there was a crime victim's compensation that you could apply for.
The DA.
The DA?
From Carroll County.
Told you what?
Told me that there was a victim's fund relief.
And what was it for?
It was for expenses for Jessica's death. And I have been making payments.
Just a second. Expenses for Jessica's death?
Yes.
Which included her burial?
Which my mother gave as a gift.
Listen to me very carefully.
Which included, yes.
So the state of Tennessee had a fund which provided for the survivors of victims of violent crime to give them money so that they could pay for burial?
Yes.
And other related expenses?
Yes.
You applied for that?
Yes.
And you got a check?
Yes.
How much was the check?
One was $5,300 and the other one was $1,024.
Can I see the paperwork surrounding those 2 checks, please?
There was a few gas expenses.
Can I see the paperwork for the...
This is exactly what
Bird, I'll take a look
but
at
I
it.
have more different, I have receipts to where I have been paying my mother.
Just a second. They paid you $5,307.27 for the funeral. And then there are other related expenses, moving expenses. Are you telling me that you have proof that you gave some of this money to your mother?
Yes, I have.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have receipts. Here, this is it for money orders. She told me that her payments were $70 and $40. I talked to my sister Gail that's standing next to her over the telephone. She was in California. I talked to her and she said, have you been giving her money? I said, yeah. She told me $70 and $40 on her credit cards. And that's exactly, I've been giving her a little bit more.
Well, I see what you're talking about. You gave her $30, $40.
And it started on 11/3, excuse me.
I understand that, but these are very small amounts of money. When did you get the check from the state?
In April. She told me it was on credit cards, and as long as I was helping her out, there was no lump sum that I was supposed to give her. She knew I would have to go home. I have a headstone to purchase for my daughter, which is $910, and I'm working at a minimum wage job. I moved out because it was so unbearable to live with her in her house.
Let's go back a second. You got this money, which is about $6,500. What did you do with it?
I've been living on it, and also I have money set aside to buy Jessica's stone and money set aside to go home.
Well,
because
so
I cannot
you
live.
just told, just a second. You just told me that the stone is $900.
$910.
Fine. And did you order it?
I've already talked to.
Yes. Don't play with me.
Yes.
Did you order it?
Yes.
Did you pay for it?
Not as of yet.
Why not?
Because she started this lawsuit.
What's the name of the company that's going to do the stone?
Memorial Gardens.
Well, you certainly have $900 for the stone because you got $6,500. And my problem with you, Mr. Julius, is because this is not a very difficult case. Whether your mother said to you, as you allege in your answer, that's the least I can do to give you the money for the funeral, right? That's what she alleges you said to her, or not. The good people of the state of Tennessee did not provide this money for you to live on. The good people of the state of Tennessee wanted to ensure that your daughter had an appropriate burial. So you cannot take their money and do what you want with it. You have to take their money and pay for her funeral. That's what it was earmarked for by the state. Because whether you and your mother, according to you, you colluded to defraud the state by her signing papers that said she's going to pay me back, and she really didn't mean that you were going to pay her back, that's a fraud on the state. I can't sanction that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. And even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone. And then some.
And later today,
when they got pulled over, there were drugs in the car. Whose drugs were they?
They were his drugs.
What kind of drugs were found in the car?
Marijuana, pills, and methamphetamines.
Whose were they?
Hers.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bourbon McDaniel is suing her daughter, Glenda Julius, for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Glenda says her mother is heartless.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm working in a dry cleaners. I'm having trouble dealing with the public.
What kind of work did you do before your daughter's death?
I was working in a convenience store, third shift.
Your mother paid for the funeral. According to the claim that you put into the criminal injuries compensation claim for Jessica Dawn Julius, the funeral was $5,307.27. That's what you told the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the funeral was actually $45.82?
The difference was donations from the school where Jessica went.
What?
I have a paper that states each and every one that gave donation to the funeral.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
The family that Jessica was, Lisa Stevens' family, were there and willing, and the whole town was willing to help out with this. My mother is the one that wanted me to move. I left everything I owned.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the moving. I'm talking about the fact that you cannot take this money and live on it. I have to make a judgment whether the person who actually paid for the funeral, and that's your mother, or you who did not pay for the funeral, are the rightful recipients of this money from the state, which is earmarked for your daughter's burial expenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were some very nice people from the town who also sent checks in for the funeral. But that's not the issue. The issue really is a very simple one. Whether your mother, at the time that your daughter died, and I believe that she probably did, say to you, this is a terrible time. I don't want you to worry about the funeral. I'll take care of it. Because that's what a parent does. But then when you found out that there was a possibility, because you said that the district attorney told you that there was a fund, that was after your daughter was buried, correct?
Yes.
So after your mother laid out that money, and probably would not have sought to recoup it because you have limited circumstances, that'd be a fair statement. But after she found out that you were going to get this money from the state for the funeral, the right thing for you to do was to give it back to her.
I've been giving her close to $1,500.
No. That may have been fine, Miss Julius, giving her $30, giving her $70, until you got $6,500. Once you got $6,500, you had to say, Mom, clean up the credit card, pay it off, because that's what this check was supposed to be used for.
Yes,
Do we
ma'am.
understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Let's not pursue this any further. Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. So you have the money, and even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone and then some, right? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love my daughter. Love my granddaughter.
It was a gift to bury Jessica.
She's using it very foolishly, but she'll have to live with that for the rest of her life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Savage versus Balding.
Nancy Savage is suing the mother of her grandson, Melissa Balding, for bail money. Nancy says Melissa and her son were arrested on drug charges.
All right, everybody listen very carefully because this is a long saga to get to a simple question. Miss Savage, I assume this is your son.
Yes, it is.
This is his girlfriend.
Yes, it is.
Ex-girlfriend.
True.
They have a child together.
True.
She doesn't have custody of the child. He doesn't have custody of the child. One of your other children has custody of the child because both of these two people were, in somebody's opinion, not capable of taking care of this child. According to your complaint, some time ago, your son was driving your car with her in the car. When did that happen?
About a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Let's have a month.
April 30th, 2004.
He's not your only child, is he?
No.
Perfect. It's a perfect example of don't put all your eggs in one basket. When they got pulled over, there were drugs in the car. I assume, Miss Savage, that they didn't belong to you.
Right.
So the two of them got hauled into court and your car was impounded. According to you, you bailed out your son and Miss Balding and you want your bail money, which was how much?
$750.
You also would like her to pay for the towing fees on the car and the impound fees.
The impound fees.
That she's not going to pay for because the Hulk over here was the one driving your car, right?
Yes.
And you gave him permission to drive your car, I assume. So I would suggest you get the impound and towing fees back from him. By the way, have you paid your mother back for your bail?
Yes, I have. Except for $50 of it.
What about the towing fees?
No, I haven't.
Where were the drugs found?
They were found behind the glove box, stashed.
Whose drugs were they?
They were his drugs.
Had you used drugs that day?
No.
Were you under the influence of drugs that day? Were you under the influence of alcohol that day?
That was possible.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of the day was this?
Around 12 o'clock in the afternoon because I was laying out at my pool.
What time had you started drinking?
Around 12 o'clock.
He's shaking his head no, I tend to believe him. Were any charges ultimately brought against you?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
That I'm not quite sure about them, but I have this paper right here stating that it was all dropped and dismissed.
Let me see that, please.
I have on the bail slip that I got her what her charges were.
Can I see that, please?
And she has one more charge than my son was, which I believe is being under the influence. She admitted to the police that she had taken somas.
What is that?
It's a muscle relaxer. Not that day, but previous.
Now tell me about the call you received, Miss Savage, from the defendant about the bail.
First of all, one of their friends notified me that their car had been pulled over, so I went to where it was because it was less than a mile from my house. And I asked the officer if I could get my car, and he said no, there were drugs involved, and one of them was under the influence, and so they were going to impound it. So I asked him where my grandchild was, and the officer went over and asked Melissa, and she told him it was at her apartment. So I told him I would take responsibility and go get Brian and have him stay with me.
Who was watching him?
Some of their friends.
Go ahead.
So I went and brought my grandson home, and I was trying to calm him and everything. He was very upset.
How old is he?
2.5.
Go ahead.
I told him that Mommy and Daddy were having car problems, and when their car was fixed that they would come and get him, and he told me that I should take him to where they were. So Melissa started calling. The first call, she was like, you have to get me out of here. I can't stay in here. You need to get me out. I'll do anything. Whatever it is, I'll pay you back. Just get me out. And that was the first of one of many calls. I probably got between 15 and 20 calls that night, and every time she called, she woke my grandson up. And
what about your son?
He called me once.
Did you go and bail him out?
I bailed both of them out.
No. He called you once?
Once.
When did you bail him out?
Steve got released around 2 o'clock that afternoon, and Melissa got released 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning because there was a woman in jail that Melissa had identified for another crime.
Oh, just a second. This incident happened at 12 noon.
No, the incident happened at like 10 o'clock that night that they were pulled over.
Yes. Oh, so she had been drinking from 12 noon until 10 o'clock at night, according to her. Oh, I didn't understand that. Now I understand. Okay, and during that whole time, she called you numerous times.
She called me about 15 to 20 times, and she told me that they wanted to test her for drugs and she wasn't going to give them a urine sample, and that when she had to go to the bathroom that she would have the girls in the waiting cell stand around her so they didn't know that she was urinating.
Step up. What happened to your case?
My case was dropped before hers was.
What kind of drugs were found in the car?
Marijuana, pills, and methamphetamines.
Whose were they?
Hers.
That's interesting. Not yours.
The marijuana was mine. I admitted to the cop when we were stopped. He asked if there were any drugs in the vehicle, and the marijuana was in my pocket. And I handed that to him, and he found the other drugs when he asked for my license and registration. When she opened the glove box door, he saw a container that everything else was in.
Who are you?
Her mother.
Step up. Why do you think your daughter didn't call you to bail her out?
Because I taught her not to call me and bail any of my children out until they have gone to their first preliminary hearing.
She was in Ohio.
Just a second.
They'll possibly lower the bail or drop the
What's your last name?
Daly.
Miss Daly, how many children do you have that have been arrested?
Oh, this one.
So when you said you've taught all your children not to call you until after they have had their first bail hearing, you were really referring just to her?
No, I raised 4 daughters as a single parent.
Yes.
And I worked in law enforcement for 30 years.
Yes.
And I just informed them that if they got into a situation where they ended up in jail, I would hope this wouldn't happen, but I just wanted to make sure that they knew what to do.
How many years have you spent in law enforcement?
All told, 20.
Between us, we have more than a half a century in law enforcement, Miss Daly. How many children do you have?
4.
Between us, we have 9 children. Did you ever have a conversation and tell your children, if you ever get arrested, make sure you wait until your first bail hearing because your bail will probably be lowered? Do you remember having that conversation when you told them about, don't talk to strangers, don't go near people's vans? You ever remember having that conversation with your 4 children?
Negative.
Me neither. So you want to go through this one more time with me? Because unless you're kooky, because I never heard of a mother, even in law enforcement, sitting her children down and saying, listen, never talk to strangers, be home at midnight, don't give any strangers your phone number, and if you ever get arrested, I want you to wait until your first bail hearing before you call me because your bail may be reduced. Were you happy to get out of jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay her the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 217 on the calendar in the matter of Tyler versus Cantrell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Tyler, the defendant is your daughter, and it is your claim that she had you falsely arrested for stealing her car. Your daughter says that you did exercise control over that car without her permission. She had every right to notify the police that you had, in fact, taken the car without permission. So let me start with you, Miss Cantrell. I understand that you are married.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband is in the armed services.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he currently located?
He's in Afghanistan.
And how long has he been there?
He's been deployed since October.
This car was originally purchased for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how it came about that your father got the car in his possession.
The car was on my grandmother's property, and he took it because he was angry that my mom had left him.
Where did you get the car from, Mr. Tyler?
Judge, I originally bought the car in Cleveland, Alabama at a car auction.
What do you mean you bought the car?
I was there to buy some cars, and my ex-wife had called her, and she came over to the auction. And she seen the car, and she said, I'd like to have this for Kevin, her husband.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
So that she bought the car. You
wrote,
didn't pay for the car.
No, she
well,
wrote
you
a
said
check.
I bought the car.
Well,
at an auction.
I meant, Judge, that I was there to buy the car, and she wanted it, so I let her have it. That's how.
You were at an auction to buy several cars. Your daughter came with you. She saw a car that she wanted. She wrote out the check for it, so she bought the car.
Right.
Don't play with me, Mr. Tyler.
Okay, I'm not, Judge.
I guarantee you.
Okay.
It's not going to happen. Okay, so your daughter bought a car, and according to her, she parked it at her grandmother's house.
No, Judge.
Where was it?
It was in my yard.
So it was in the yard of the house where you were living.
Uh-huh.
Who were you living there with?
My ex-wife.
Anybody else?
My cousin.
What's the address of this house?
77, Highway 75.
And is that where the car was taken from?
No, ma'am.
Where was it taken from?
71, Highway 75.
That's where your grandmother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live next door to your mother-in-law?
That's my mother, Judge.
Your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the car parked at her house at any time?
No, Judge.
Okay. How did it come about that you took control over this car?
When the car was bought, it was to be brought to my house to fix for Kevin. And at the time, Judge, they were going to pay for it to be fixed. And Kevin had gotten hurt and come home. And Kevin asked me when he was home if I would keep the car at my house until he came back and fix what it needed. And when I get home, I'll pay you for it.
Okay.
So we had a windshield put in it. When you walk out my back door, it was sitting right there with a car cover on it. Then, Judge, when my ex-wife left...
Okay, so you separated.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
It's a long story behind it.
Let's
Anyway,
put it simply. Ultimately, she wanted the car.
To give to her mom, because I wouldn't give her, let her mom
Just a
have
second.
one.
In whose name was the car titled?
Mine.
Yours?
And my husband's.
So she said, I want the car. I'm going to give it to Mama.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I had told her prior to this that me and Sammy was going to fix the car. He would do. He told me, he said, if you'll pay for the parts, I'll do the labor. And when Kevin comes home, we'll give it to him. And, Judge, that's what I had in mind doing.
I don't care what you had in mind, sir.
She,
I don't care what you had in mind. I got the gist of it. You and her mother separated, and she said, I want the car to give to Mama.
Right.
I assume that's because her mother didn't have a car.
Right. And
okay, and you said no.
And not unless you pay me.
Okay, so now you want to be paid before Kevin came back from Afghanistan.
Well, if she was going to take it. Okay.
You had made an arrangement with Kevin that he would pay you for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you're changing the contract because now you want to get paid right away.
Well, the car was to stay there, Judge, till he came home.
No. It can go anywhere that the owner says it can go.
But he told me to keep it there until
But then you spoke to him again and he said to give it to her.
No, he called on the phone.
I said you spoke to him again and he said to give it to my wife.
If she pays.
No.
Yeah.
He said give it to my wife.
If she pays the labor to Sammy, not the parts. But just the labor.
Labor to Sammy has nothing to do with you.
Right.
What did you do with the car?
Well, a couple of days there, the car winded up. You could tell where it had tried to be broken into. Not for sure who done it. We took it and put it in storage.
Not we. You.
Well, me and my cousin. He had done the labor on it, Judge, and I'd paid for the parts.
Did you tell her where it was?
Yes, I told her I'd put it in storage, and when she paid us, she could get it. There was a labor lien against it. And she wanted proof of it, Judge, so I sent her proof of it.
Let me see what you mailed her.
And may I speak, Judge?
No, now it's her turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When they sent this letter, they did send the letter, but it was not sent until after the investigator had called and spoke with him about my car.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I have the report. And
Can I see the report,
yes,
please? That's interesting, because you send her this ridiculous note that says, I have in my possession a Pontiac Firebird, and there is a $10 storage fee on it. And then you change the amount of repair bill. It looks like you put first it was $1,300, then it was $700. I don't know. Can't figure this out. And you say if you don't respond within 90 days, the car will be sold at public auction. Now this, I don't know what date this is, but she signed for it on May 23rd, because she allegedly sent this by certified mail. But she filed this incident report on the 16th of May, which is before you sent this letter to her. So the police contacted you. Put your hand down. Police contacted you and said, where's the car?
Probably.
Or they contacted Sammy.
No, they come out and contacted me.
Oh, there you go. And then you sent her this letter.
Judge, the officer, the day he came out, he wanted a copy of that letter. The day the officer come out and talked.
It's absolutely impossible, sir, because you dated this letter May 17th. That was the next day after the officer took this complaint.
Judge, he didn't come out the day he took the complaint.
I don't care whether he came out and took the complaint on that day or not. It doesn't make any difference, sir. Okay. What I'm telling you is, I got the whole story. You know what the whole story is? You were mad at your ex-wife.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't want her to have a car. Don't shake your head no to me. You were angry, you didn't want her to have a car, and you had worked on this car, and when your daughter said, I'm going to give this car to Mama to use because you're not giving her a car, you said, over my dead body, because I put money in that car, and I was going to give it to Kevin, but I won't give it to the woman who I've lived with for the last, I don't know, how many years, 30 years?
24, Judge.
24, and raised a bunch of children with, how many children?
4.
4 children. I'm not going to give it to her, because I don't like her. I like this stranger, now husband of my child, and I'd give him for nothing, but I'm not giving it to my ex-wife, because who the hell does she think she is throwing me out?
You're right.
Well, that's too damn bad. You had no right. That's too bad, Mr. Tyler.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Uncross your hands. Your wife may have taken your attitude for 24 years. I don't. What I'm telling you is you didn't do it because you put a mechanic's lien on it. You did it because you were PO'd at your wife.
And later today,
I needed some money to put down. She gave us the money.
I didn't give the money.
Okay, just a second. Why would you choose to pay back your in-laws and not your mother?
Because it's my mother.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Billy Tyler says his daughter, Tiffany Cantrell, had him falsely arrested for stealing her car.
Mr. Tyler?
She took it all and gave it to a man one time. She ain't gonna do it again.
Listen to me, Mr. Tyler. I don't know the reason after 24 years and raising 4 children with somebody that they say, I don't want to live with him anymore. I'm not going back over that. I don't know whether you were a good husband, whether you were not a good husband, whether you were a kind person to her, whether she was a kind person to you. I have no idea.
She's the one who left.
She may have had good reason. Let me tell you something about most women. And how old is your wife?
42.
Most women, if they have a loving mate, someone who cherishes them and cares for them,
some of them appreciate it.
I'm speaking, and treat them well, they don't say, I'd rather go it alone. See, sometimes men do. Because, you know, men will turn around and they'll say, well, I can find somebody who's 20. What do I need? This 42-year-old who's raised my 4 children. Now, your wife must not be a bad person because her daughter says, I'm going to let you use this car if Daddy won't give you a car. So evidently, uncross your hands. Your wife may have taken your attitude for 24 years. I don't. What I'm telling you is you had no right to take that car and put it in a place where she couldn't find it. And you didn't do it because you put a mechanic's lien on it. You did it because you were PO'd at your wife. And that you had no right to do. You had no right to exercise dominion and control over a car that did not belong to you. Now, your daughter, as far as I'm concerned, should not have gone to the police, should have tried to settle this matter civilly. But then again, you took your mother's side in this altercation. Yeah, you felt badly for her.
Somewhat, yes, ma'am.
You felt badly for her. So, in a family situation, should she have gone to the police? Probably not. Did she have a legal right to go to the police because you exercised dominion and control over her car? Absolutely. Don't say no. She did. And what they found when they found you not guilty wasn't because you weren't guilty of exercising control over the car, sir. What they said was, this is really a family matter, and we're not going to find you guilty of a criminal act because what you were really doing was acting vindictive. And we're not going to get involved with that. So, sir, she had the legal right, put your hand down, she had a legal right to call the police to make a police report that she no longer had a car that was titled in her name and that you had.
Even though she had brought the car down there and told me to fix it.
Listen to me, sir. You can't trip over your own words. What you said to me 10 minutes ago was, it was your intention to fix the car. First, you said you were going to make a gift to Kevin when he came back from Afghanistan. Then you changed that and you said, well, I spoke to him and he said to me he would pay me for the parts when he came back from Afghanistan. She never told you she would pay you for anything unless you're going to change your story again.
Judge,
right. You have no case, Mr. Tyler. Grow up. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her mother left after me catching her with another man.
He's been abusive to my mom my whole life.
Didn't only catch her with another man, I caught her 3 days later sitting on a computer in my home talking to another man.
He let that come between a relationship with his daughter and his grandchildren.
I told her to get out of my home because we'd been divorced 4 years ago, and I put her out.
He didn't kick her out. She left in the middle of the night because he wouldn't let her leave on her own.
I've seen the car in the home, and I was there the day
that someone tried to break in it.
She said, no, I'm going to get the car, and I'm not paying neither one of you nothing. And she did.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Leffler. Step forward.
Jean Johnson is suing her daughter, 28-year-old Christine Leffler, for 2 unpaid loans. Jean says her daughter is taking advantage of her.
Miss Johnson, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes.
Your complaint alleges 2 loans to your daughter, and she has repaid neither.
Correct.
Your daughter says that her family came on hard times. You were kind enough to offer her some money for housing. She accepted your offer, which was a gift, not a loan.
Yes.
Tell me about the first amount of money that your mother gave you.
My mother had given us $2,000.
When?
April, I believe.
Why?
My husband was the owner-operator of his own business, a trucking company, and we're from Massachusetts. It was very snowy this winter, so his work slowed down quite a bit. And then he had to have major surgery on his colon, and that put him out of work for a couple months. So things were very bad for us, mortgage-wise. So we decided that, it might be better for my husband's business, trucking, to move to Florida. That's always sunny there. You don't have to worry about missed days. So, we found a house and that we liked, and she gave us the money.
I didn't give the money.
Okay, just a second. Wait 1 second. Tell me about the call that you got for the $2,000.
Well, they did have hard times, and she did call me, and she needed some help with the deposit on the house that they were going to get in Florida. I was against it. I didn't want my grandson going all the way to Florida. You're a grandmother.
That's true.
And I told her I would loan her the money, but I needed the money back. It was
When did you expect her, and how did you expect her to pay it back?
Her house was on the market, and she had promised to pay me back after May 26th when she sold her house.
Now, when was the next loan? When was the next amount of money that your mother gave you?
I'm not sure of the exact dates, but, we did talk about that, and she knew that we were on hard times. And when we did get an offer on the house, it was less than what we had expected.
Well, how much did you get?
We got about 17 grand. Unfortunately, due to being behind, my husband had to catch up.
So you netted $17,000 in profit?
Yes.
And how much was this second amount of money that your mother gave you, and for what?
She had found us a rental house in Westboro. Every time I would go over to her house, I would get
the first house fell through in Florida.
Well, that was to build for us to own. She had found us a rental house.
Why did it fall through?
The builder had been put to a halt in Florida. He had too many outstanding projects per the person that we were going through.
So you lost the $2,000?
Yes. Yep. So she had found us a house in Westboro. She gave the woman the money to secure it so we'd be in the same town as her. And I knew that she knew that we had no way of paying her back. I couldn't pay my mortgage. How was I going to pay her back all this money? It's ridiculous.
Out of the sale of the house?
Well, that's just the thing, Your Honor. I mean, everybody else that, my husband had his truck that he owned, which was quite a lot of money every month. So we had all these back months that I had to pay. And, we owed money to his parents. I mean, it was just out of control this winter.
How much money did you owe to his parents?
We owed his parents $5,000.
They got their money.
Shh. Did you pay him back?
Yes.
Did your mother know that you had paid back your husband's parents?
Yes.
What does your mom do for a living?
She works in an office.
And your father?
My father's a retired policeman.
So he has a pension?
I believe so.
And your in-laws?
My father's a retired state policeman.
Your father-in-law?
My father-in-law, excuse me, is a retired state policeman.
So he has a pension?
Yes.
And your mother-in-law?
I believe she works at TJ Maxx still.
They have comparable kind of incomes. Why would you choose to pay back your in-laws and not your mother?
Because it's my mother, and because she knew that we were on difficult times. I mean, my husband had to go back and take a job working for somebody again. He had to sell the truck ultimately because we couldn't afford to pay for it.
Well,
so now you go from making this much money to making this much money, and all these people that you owed, they really don't care. They want their money either way. So trying to raise an 8-year-old and,
Ms. Leffler, I understand you, and I am compassionate to your position. And to be quite honest with you, unless your parents had their back to the wall and needed this money desperately, I don't think I would have pursued this matter in a court. I'm telling you right now, Ms. Johnson, I would not have done that because I think that your daughter, she strikes me as being a reasonable person. But I think, Mrs. Leffler, that you could have handled it a little more reasonably. and said to your husband, listen, we have one pot of money. We have $5,000 that we're able to scrape together to pay back our collective parents. And we can't pay them all back what we should together. So let's work it out and give each set of parents $2,500 and say, you know, we're going to try our best to put some money together so that we will have the respect of both sets of parents, not just one.
Well, I really didn't think that she wanted, I mean, I didn't think it was a loan. I really didn't.
Well, but listen, you can't tell me that the first time you heard about it was when you got served with a small claims summons. This is something that's been going on for a while. And I'm going to suggest to you that your mother might have let this slide for a longer period of time until she found out that you paid back your in-laws $5,000. Because, quite frankly, that would irritate me. You say to me, it's a very interesting thing, you said to me, it's because it's my mother.
Well, can I say that she didn't want the money until she decided she wanted to pay off her second summer car. She's got a nice Saab convertible. Not really something you need to have, but she has it. So, you know, I have to give her this money because she wants to pay her car off.
Just a minute. That's not your determination to make.
But all of a sudden it's...
What do you do for a living?
I work in an office.
Same as your mother? Mm-hmm. And your husband's working now?
Well, he's working for somebody now. He's not making the kind of money he used to.
Well, he's working?
Yes.
And you have one child?
We do.
When did you pay back your in-laws?
When we sold the house.
You owe your mother the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bartlett versus Jones. Step forward.
22-year-old daycare provider Melanie Bartlett is suing former client Thomas Jones for unpaid daycare fees and late charges. Thomas says Melanie left his son in the care of a certified schizophrenic.
Miss Bartlett, you run a daycare service, is that right?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Jones had one child?
Yes.
A little boy?
Yes, ma'am.
Enrolled in your daycare. Is your claim that he took the child out of daycare without giving you notice, that he owes you for a certain period of time that the child was there when he didn't pay, and he also owes you for a whole bunch of late fees because he took the child out without notice? Mr. Jones says that he owes you some money for the daycare.
That's correct, Your Honor.
It is his claim that he had good cause to remove his son from your daycare because you were not properly caring for him.
That is not true, Your Honor.
So let's resolve what we can resolve, and then we'll get on to what's in dispute. How much money, Mr. Jones, do you owe her for the time your son, who was how old at the time?
14 and a half, 15 months, Your Honor.
How much do you owe Miss Bartlett for the time she did, in fact, care for him?
Approximately 2 weeks, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's not true. He paid me the first week, and then after that, I had no other payment from him.
Well, I'm trying to recall. First weeks were paid in full. The second week, I received partial payment. That's what you said.
$45.
Well,
Yes.
but you have to add that.
Yes.
So we paid you partially.
Yes.
For the second week. So each week was how much? Ms.
$160. And the late fees are $10.
Just a second. $435 is what you owe her for the time your son was there and you didn't pay.
That's correct, ma'am.
Now let's get to termination fee and all of that stuff. Miss Bartlett, how many children do you take care of?
I just started my daycare, so I was in the process of getting my license, and he was my first customer.
Were you licensed at the time?
No. I made him aware of that. I have the paperwork that I was in the process of getting the license, and
That's
I made him
untrue, Your
aware
Honor.
of that when he enrolled his son.
At the time you took care of him, you were not a licensed daycare provider. Is
No.
that what you're telling me?
I was in the process of getting the license. It was just paperwork.
At the time you
No.
took care of his son, you were not a licensed daycare provider.
No.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
How did you locate her?
Through the internet.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
Unfortunately, I do not, Your Honor.
I do.
Let me see it, please. Oh, well, this is deceptive, Miss Bartlett. Melanie Bartlett, that's you. License number upon request.
The only choice was to put in a license number or to say upon request. And I was in
No, the
process.
choice is I don't have one. That's your choice. When I say it's deceptive, it says upon request. Upon request means I have one and I'll give it to you if you ask me for it. So that's deceptive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you leave this child in a car?
Yes.
Did they give you a license?
Yes.
That's a big mistake.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daycare provider Melanie Bartlett says former client Thomas Jones owes for unpaid fees. Thomas claims Melanie left his young son in the care of a certified schizophrenic.
Now let me see the contract that he signed. In the contract, do you say that you are not licensed?
I didn't mention anything about being licensed or not licensed in the contract, no.
Well, then that's deceptive, Miss Bartlett. That's one thing. Got to ask questions.
Yes,
Better questions when you're turning over the most precious commodity that you have to somebody that you don't know. You have to say, let me see your license. Check to make sure it's a valid license with the state. You know how to do that now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. The most egregious thing, if it's true, is he removed the child from your care during the second week in October. Is that right?
Approximately that, yes, ma'am.
And on October 7th, according to you, something happened. Want to tell me what happened?
I was informed by Melanie that she was going to a funeral. She asked if she could take my son to this funeral. She told me her mother would be going to watch my son.
That is untrue.
I don't want to hear.
I agreed to this, and I later found out that my son was left in the care of someone who was not qualified, alone in a car with him for, I don't know how long, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And this individual happens to be a state-diagnosed schizophrenic, and,
That's what you wrote.
And I'm very fortunate that nothing happened to my son, that this wasn't a point where, something went wrong.
And after that, you took him out.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
He knew the day before. My ex-boyfriend was doing work with him, and he informed him of the funeral that I would be attending. He brought it up as soon as he came to pick up his child that day, and I told him I had a friend who could watch his son, and I told him it was the friend he was referring to, who happens to be schizophrenic.
That's not true.
Listen to me.
There was nothing wrong.
Listen to me. You have to skip a funeral. You have a job.
I know.
Listen to me. Did you leave this child in a car?
Yes.
Wrong. You don't do that.
I left him in there with my friend. The air conditioning was on, and it was
Listen to me. That's not your job. You have one job when you take care of a 14-month-old baby.
He
and
didn't
it's not
say
to go.
anything that
I'm
he didn't want
speaking
him
to
to
you.
go.
And it's not to go to a funeral. And it's not to leave a baby in a car. And it's not to leave a baby in a car with someone who was on disability for a psychiatric illness. Because according to what you said in your statement, because you anticipated what he was going to say, I was attending a funeral for my ex-boyfriend's family member. I left Jacob asleep in the car for a total of 10 minutes with a good friend. He is a schizophrenic, but he's been on his medication. Did they give you a license?
Yes.
That's a big mistake.
I would trust him with my own 9-month-old daughter.
That's your prerogative. Listen to me. That is your prerogative. You can trust him with your 9-month-old if you wish. You cannot trust him with somebody else's 9-year-old. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
So you don't get termination fees or late fees or any other fees.
He knew the day before that...
Listen, I don't care what he knew. There is no way that you're going to tell me that you told him that you were going to leave his son in a car with a diagnosed schizophrenic but who's taking his medication. I don't believe that you told him all of that.
My mother was there when I told him that.
I wouldn't believe you if you told me or your mother told me that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What I am going to give you is the money that he owes you for the time that he used your services.
It's written in the contract about the late fees. He gave me no notice. I had no indication.
Wouldn't give you a second notice.
I had no idea he was not going to bring his son back to me.
Listen to me. I don't care whether you knew or not. You're not getting it. Maybe your mother can explain it to you. Maybe the state where you live will listen. Because after what I said to you, if you still think that it was appropriate to leave a child in the care of a diagnosed schizophrenic who receives disability, that speaks to your judgment in caring for infants ages 0 to 2, which is what you advertise. And I wouldn't let you take care of a guppy age 0 to 2. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $435, and you're lucky you're getting it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yes, case number 172 on the calendar, the matter of Slavin versus Singh. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Slavin, you purchased a dog from the defendant, a dog that you saw advertised on the internet?
That's correct.
And you two live in two different states. Before the dog arrived at your home, it died. You want the return of your money, which you had sent to Mr. Singh prior to his putting the dog on a plane.
Yes.
Mr. Singh says it's not his responsibility, it's somebody else's responsibility. Right?
Correct.
Ah, okay. What kind of dog was this, Mr. Singh?
This was an English bulldog.
And how much did you charge the Slavins for this dog?
$3,600.
Why so expensive, sir?
It was a smaller version, and it's categorized under a miniature English bulldog.
Did you raise the dog?
I had him for maybe a year and a half, maybe.
That's not my question. I didn't, of course you had him. I assume that you didn't steal him. I asked you if you raised them.
Yes.
How old was the dog?
When what?
How old was the dog?
About almost 2 years old when I sold him. I have a specific date right here.
So if you have the dog for a year and a half, the dog was 6 months old when you got him.
Correct.
Why are you asking me? That sounds like a question, Mr. Singh. Is that correct, that the dog was 6 months old when you got him?
Correct.
Who did you get him from?
Veronica.
For how much?
$3,500.
Was she the breeder of this dog?
Yes.
When did you put this ad on the internet to sell the dog?
The dog was never, I guess maybe January.
The dog was never what?
I really didn't want to, you know, the dog wasn't heavily advertised. It was a litter from the dog that was advertised.
This was a female or a male?
This was a male dog.
And how many puppies were born from that litter?
4.
Is that a question or an answer?
It's an answer.
Let me see the ad, please. This is not an advertisement, Mr. Slavin, for the dog that you bought, and that was Monster.
Correct.
How did you come to buy Monster?
Well, I asked him about any of the pups, were any of them left, and he said they weren't. And then I proceeded to ask, did he have any older dogs for sale?
When did you correspond with him?
About the 25th of January.
Well, this ad is for May 14th, 2005.
That's correct. I had not printed off the original ad, but that was a copy, or one that's been updated, stating that Monster still is at stud. So, point being, either he sent me a different dog.
Just a second. How many monsters do you have, sir?
I have one monster. Gestation of a female dog is 63 days.
Correct.
Okay. After a female dog has her puppies.
Say anything else. You contacted him in January of 2005.
That's correct.
And he said that there were no puppies left.
Correct.
And you decided to see if he would sell you Monster.
That's correct.
The 2-year-old male.
Correct.
So far correct?
Yes.
And you agreed on a price of?
$3,600.
Even though he was selling the puppies for $2,500.
Well, it sounded good. It says proven, had puppies before, so with the they would be able to use it as a stud yourself.
Well, why would you want to use this dog? Were you buying it as a pet or were you buying it to breed?
Buying it to breed. We had 2 females.
Are these miniatures?
Yes.
Now, do you have a contract with him?
No, ma'am.
When you're a breeder, you usually have contracts.
We're from the country, and every man's word should amount to what his word is, but I know that's old-fashioned.
Let me see the vet report that you have while I'm taking the rest of this testimony. Okay. Now, according to you, you put the dog on a plane.
Yes, I did.
Let me see.
And also, this is a receipt. Basically, I was called and just told to drop the dog off at this particular site at this time and this date by the Slavins. And this is a receipt that says that transportation was prepaid for, so meaning I did not have anything to do with Delta Airlines.
Who paid for the transportation?
They did. I didn't do anything with airline.
Fine. Correct. You took care of the transportation.
No, I just gave him $3,600, and he took care of it.
If you see right there, it's checked off prepaid, Your Honor.
It does, but it doesn't say it was prepaid by. Well, that's really not the issue, Mr. Singh. The real issue is whether A, you sent a sick dog, and B, more interestingly to me, how can you send a dog that clearly everybody acknowledges did not arrive alive and still advertise Monster for stud 5 months later?
I've been breeding dogs as a hobby for a while. Initially, I lived in Fresno, California. Now I'm a dental student here in Los Angeles. And basically how it works is first a female dog goes into heat every 6 months. After she's been in heat for every 6 months, you breed her, and then 63 days is gestation, meaning the dog mother carries the puppies in her stomach.
I know what 63
After that,
days gestation means. I went to high school.
4 months after that, you have to keep the puppy with the mother. I bred Monster before I sold him. That's why I was advertising him as the father of these puppies.
Your Honor, he's advertising that as current stud, meaning it's alive, it's current.
Both of the parents are, well, that's misleading. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup Girl, are very lightweight and especially short. Well, that's not true.
How's that not true?
Well, because Monster isn't a present. Both of these parents, Monster and Pup, Monster, who was very lightweight and short, and Pup, who I assume is still alive, is very lightweight and short. Monster was, not is. You know what the difference between was and is?
I do. I went to high school.
Oh, okay. So if you went to high school, Mr. Singh, you know. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup. Monster was a lightweight dog. He is no longer. So you can't say they are, because he isn't an are, he is a was.
But at the time the puppies were bred?
Doesn't make any difference. This is as of 7/4 you're advertising this, sir. As of 7/4, Monster is no longer alive.
And the website hasn't been updated for a while either.
That's misleading. Then it's misleading, Mr. Singh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're going to be a dentist, sir?
Yes.
Not only wouldn't I go to buy a dog from you, sir, I wouldn't let you fill my worst cavity, because what you did was the wrong thing.
And later today,
I said, Mom, what do you need 500 for? Oh, miscellaneous. I said, oh, it's for Jackson, right? Because she likes to go gamble in Jackson outside of the bingo hall.
Did you have a reasonable relationship with your mother before?
Outside of being her banker, no.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ken and Cindy Slavin claim Navjot Singh owes for the refund of a miniature English bulldog. The Slavins claim the dog died en route to their home, and Navjot won't refund their money.
Now, did you sell these puppies?
Yes.
Really?
They're
You
sold.
have the names of the people you sold them to?
I do.
Did you tell the people that Monster was dead?
Yes. I told him he had been sold. I told him I did not
That's not what I asked you, whether you told him he had been sold. I said, did you tell the people that bought the puppies that Monster was dead?
Correct, I did.
You did. I don't believe that, Mr. Singh.
We can have him come in.
I could, or I could just rely on my own common sense and your response to me, sir.
Okay.
That you didn't say to people who were going to spend $2,500 for a dog that the stud died.
But the death wasn't my responsibility of the dog.
Oh, I'm going to make that assessment right now, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
When did you put this dog on the plane, Mr. Singh?
2/15/05?
Well, you took the dog to the vet on 2/14.
Correct.
This dog was not a well dog when you put him on the plane, sir.
How was it not well?
You want me to tell you what he wrote in his notes about the dog?
She, yes, go ahead.
She. What I can read.
Wait, did you get those notes from the veterinary themselves, or?
Yes.
Can I take a look at that?
Sure.
These notes on the dog, the veterinary knew this is an English bulldog, so basically she's making notes in regardless of a regular dog, but this is actually an English bulldog, so brachiocardial sounds are normal, and having a high temperature are normal with English bulldogs. In that, they're so normal that Delta has a specific policy for shipping snub-nosed dogs.
Mr. Singh, are you playing with me, sir?
No, I'm just trying to state my side.
The vet says that the dog looks like it's been chewing on its rump as well. It has very long toenails, which indicates that it has not been well cared for. I also have dogs. Green mucosoid discharge. I'm not talking about the sounds from your English bulldog, because we all know I mean, if you're a dog lover, you know different breeds. English bulldogs have very small noses so that they breathe, they snort, they make noise. I'm not talking about that. Your vet said that the client, that was you, declined a microscopic examination, declined to have the dog's ears cleaned, declined medication, declined nail trim. You said that the dog will be traveling because the dog is a Valentine's Day gift for a friend. That's what you told, that's what the vet said you told the vet. And the vet says, underlined, see vet as soon as possible at new placement for infection. Okay? Told no food in the morning of the flight. Airline may decline boarding with eye skin infections.
Eye and skin infections are very common for English
Listen
bulldogs.
to me, sir. Listen to me, sir. You did the wrong thing. When somebody pays you a substantial amount of money and you have a dog that the vet says needs some treatment, you are supposed to ensure that before you put this dog on a plane, this dog has a clean bill of health. Not just sufficient to travel, clean bill of health. And you didn't do that. I wouldn't buy a dog from you, sir. I would suggest that if any of the 10 million people who watch this program thinking about buying a dog, they will never buy a dog from you because you haven't done the right thing. When you take on the responsibility of being a dog breeder and you have an animal that requires a human being to take them to the doctor and make sure that they're taken care of, you're going to be a dentist, sir?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me? You're going to be a dentist?
Yes.
When somebody has a child and the child has something wrong with their mouth, the parent has the responsibility of bringing the child to the dentist. And you have the responsibility of, as the dentist, of taking care of whatever it is that that child needs, because the child can't do it for themselves. You got my drift, Mr. Singh?
I do.
Now, a small miniature English bulldog, 2 years old, if it's got mucus coming out of their eyes, mucus coming out of the nose, seems to have a trouble with biting its skin. And the vet says, you know, the dog could really be treated before you put it on a plane and send it to a new home. And you say, not necessary. As long as it's not an extremis, you give me a health certificate because it's good enough to go on a plane. This vet was not happy with the way this dog looked. And you should have seen to it that that dog was in tip-top shape before sending it off to new owners. That's what you do if you're a responsible, caring individual. So not only wouldn't I go to buy a dog from you, sir, I wouldn't let you fill my worst cavity. Because what you did was the wrong thing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
After 5 hours sitting in the airlines, waiting, no dog, come home, no call on the answer machine, I had to call him.
I told him the dog had passed away in the airline.
He wasn't honest. He said he would send me the money back.
Airline was ultimately responsible, so it should be the airline and the other party.
And then he said, well, I spent the money, that's why I can't send it back, and that really bothered me.
I think the airline took advantage of me.
I'm just thankful that justice was served.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Wamsley versus Martinez. Step forward.
19-year-old Preston Wamsley is suing neighbor Audrey Martinez and her son, 17-year-old Chris Rivera, for the cost of a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Preston claims Chris totaled the vehicle.
You and the defendants are neighbors. This is her son, who is
Christopher Rivera.
17.
Yes.
And this is your mother. At some point, Christopher came to your house and asked if he could borrow your car. You knew he was 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is not an answer in court. Is fine outside here. You
Yes,
say
Your Honor.
yes, no, whatever. Your Honor is a nice touch. He said he needed your car so he could take his sister to school.
Yes.
But that was a partial truth. You know what that means?
I'm not sure.
It means it was only partially true, half true. A little piece of it was true. Some of it was a lie. You didn't just want to take your sister to school. You did something else with the car, right?
Yes.
What else did you do with the car?
I gave my cousin a ride home.
And after you gave your cousin a ride home, then what else did you do with the car?
And I let April driving.
Who's April?
Some girl.
Was she in the car?
Yes.
I didn't get that part of the story. How did April get into the car?
Because she was with my cousin.
How old is April?
17, I believe.
I want you to keep your voice up. You don't mind my yelling at him, do you?
No, ma'am.
Yes. And April wrecked the car.
Yes.
So, Mr. Wamsley, you expect Mrs. Martinez to pay for your car.
Yeah, and I was under the impression that he had a license.
I don't care whether you thought he had a license to drive race cars or drive a ship to the moon. You have no right to loan a car to a minor. None. Now, I read your complaint and you said, well, you thought he had a license because you saw him driving around in his mother's car.
Yes,
Well,
Your
his
Honor.
mother wants to be a jerk and let him drive around in her car. That's her prerogative and her problem. But how do you know that his mother gave him permission to drive around in her car? Maybe he was just driving around in it when she wasn't home. Is that possible?
It could be, yes.
Sure. Does your son have a driver's license?
No, ma'am.
You ever give him permission to drive your car?
No.
You drive your mother's car?
Yes.
Where's your mother when you drive her car?
At home.
Does she know you drive her car?
No.
See what I mean? As a matter of fact, if he was injured while in your car that you let him borrow, she would sue you and would have collected. Do you understand? When you're dealing with a minor, and he's a minor, he's a stupid minor, and he's dishonest, right?
Yes.
You do not do anything that would require parental permission, because when you talk in terms of minors, they are referred to as minors in the law because they're too stupid to make their own judgments. He's too stupid to make his own judgment. And you gave him a weapon. Was April hurt?
No, ma'am.
Anybody hurt?
No, ma'am.
You are a very lucky man, sir. You should go home and thank your lucky stars that somebody isn't suing you and taking your house away. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yes, case number 364 on the calendar in the matter of Evola versus Zampino. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Miss Evola, the defendant is your half-sister, and according to what I read, you only recently, in the last few years, had a relationship with each other.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you rented a home that you own to your sister with the understanding that she would have an option to buy it after she paid rent for a while.
Yes.
Subsequently, within a relatively short period of time after she moved in, you evicted her. But your lawsuit wants your furniture back. And you say when you left some furniture in the basement that was yours. You allowed her to use some furniture. But when she moved out, she took your things. The defendant says that you gave her a living room set, that the bedroom furniture that you claim you want back was actually repossessed by the company that you had rented it from, so she doesn't have that. And she is counterclaiming because she says that because of your precipitous behavior, which was not warranted by anything she did, she was forced to move, she had moving expenses, she was forced to move very quickly, and she wants to be compensated for that and all of her emotional distress. When did you lease her your house?
It was in July.
And when did you evict her?
I gave her notice September 10th.
Had she paid rent in August?
Yes.
Had she paid rent in September?
No.
Why did you evict her?
There was drug usage going on, and I only agreed to 4 people living in the house.
How did you know there was drug use going on in the house?
August 24th, my uncle had came there, and they smoked it right in front of him.
Smoked what?
Pot.
Who did?
Melanie and a guy named by the name of Brandon.
You agreed, you said, for 4 people to live in the house?
Yes.
Who were the 4 people?
Her, Christina New Church, which is right over there, and their...
Is this a friend?
It's my roommate. We've lived together for 9 years.
Okay.
And they have each 1 child.
How many people were living there?
Between 7 and 8.
Who else was living there?
I got 2 people that were not even residing there, a piece of mail of theirs.
Can I see?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Brandon?
My cousin. He did not live there. He stayed there occasionally during the week because Christina works 3rd shift, and he tended the kids. I did pay him.
Where did he live otherwise?
He lived with his father.
Was Joseph?
My husband. Some of my utilities were in his name. My husband and I have been separated for almost a year.
Okay, now tell me about the furniture.
We did have a verbal agreement about the living room set. If she purchased the home, it would be added in with the cost of the house. However, she didn't buy the house, so the furniture didn't come with the house. And I did try to call her.
Go ahead. Let's deal with the living room furniture first.
Okay. When we discussed the house, she said to me, you can have my washer and dryer, you can have my living room set, you can have the bedroom set if you pay the last $150 to Color Time where she was renting her bedroom set from. I said, I have an antique set, I don't want the bedroom set, but I will take the living room set because mine is used. The living room set was stained with marker. One of her children must have wrote on it. Her husband works on cars. There's massive grease marks on the one where he must have sat regularly, which I have all pictures to show. She gave me the living room set. She never said if you purchase the home or if we don't come back, because when she actually on September 10th asked me to move out, she told me it was because her grandmother threw her out of the house that she was staying in South Carolina. I do not use drugs, and I'm
Can I see a picture of this living room set that she wants back?
Of just the living room set in question?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did bring pictures of my old living room set just to show you why I would switch.
You're talking about the sofas and the end tables as well?
And the coffee table. And I did attempt to take pictures of the markings.
Well, when I left, there might have been a little bit of like grease stains, but there was no marker on my living room set. It was only...
When did you purchase it?
February of 2 years ago.
You have a receipt for it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it, please? And who lived in the house with you?
My husband and my 2 children.
How old are your children?
1 and 2.
This doesn't tell me when you purchased it. Take that, please, return that to her. I don't know what this furniture looked like when you left, but certainly a month later, it looks pretty used and pretty abused to me. And when you have 2 young children, that's what furniture like this looks like. Certainly not worth much. You'd have to pay somebody to take it out. You would. You'd have to pay somebody to take out these 2 sofas. What's next? What about the bedroom's furniture?
I purchased that, and I actually have the original bill. And when I got into my house in late September, I came to clean it up and stuff. The bed was set up, but it was sliced. The bed was set up in the basement like someone had been sleeping there.
So what are you talking about, just the mattress?
The mattress and the headboard was damaged, and I have pictures of that.
Who slept on the mattress?
When we lived there, me and my husband.
When I lived there, no one. I had my own set.
Fine. Did you slice the mattress?
I did not. I also have a letter from Color Time saying that they repossessed her bedroom furniture that she left in the basement.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the mattress.
Oh.
And they took the dressers, by the way, because I had asked them to take the dressers.
We're not talking about a whole bunch of money. I mean, we're certainly not talking about $3,500. Maybe we're talking about $100. I'm just trying to figure out why we're all here.
I'd like to make a statement on that.
Go ahead.
Judge Judy, because I feel that we're here for the same reason that Jessica, the only time she ever interacts with me is when there's trouble to be made. When she needs something, she'll call me. When she needs a babysitter, she'll call me. I actually paid money to find her because I wanted to know my sister. And the only thing that's coming out of this, no matter how you look at it, is a destroyed relationship.
That's unfortunate. When did she tell you to move?
September 10th.
And when did you move?
She gave me until September 28th when she started calling the law and having her stepfather threaten to put me out the quote-unquote old-fashioned way.
Did anything happen September 10th that precipitated this?
No.
I basically had coming back to Pennsylvania. My grandma her name's on the house also, so she had a decision to make, and she made that.
That doesn't give me an answer. That's a lot of double talk. You were coming back to live there, is that right?
Yes.
All right, so you were coming back to live there, so you told her to move?
Yes. Well, the drug usage was the reason why.
No.
There was no...
No. Because if the drug usage was the reason why, you would have told her to move on August 24th or August 25th. You didn't. Or the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You told her to move on September 10th because you had to come back to your house. So stop making up excuses. You get it?
Yes.
And you had a responsibility to give her 30 days notice. You didn't do that.
In that town, you only have to legally give 10 days.
Because you're not allowed to legally rent without a renter's permit, and she didn't have one.
Not nice. Okay. So you get nothing. Not even the $100 that maybe your mattress is worth if it was destroyed, and maybe your coffee tables were worth. Because what you did was the wrong thing. Because they're living there with, let's say, 4 people, including 2 children. Two children who by September 10th have started school, have settled in, and because you can't live where you were going to live and had to come home, you told them to move and gave them what I consider no notice. Not even the right thing to do to a stranger, but to do to somebody who's related to you? Outrageous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We wanted her out. It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. You're an apology, not a lawsuit.
And later today,
You have one job when you take care of a 14-month-old baby. And it's not to leave a baby in a car with someone who is on disability for a psychiatric illness.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jessica Eveler says her half-sister, Melanie Zampino, stole furniture during tenancy in her home. Jessica claims she kicked Melanie out because she was using drugs.
Now, where did you move?
I live in Dover. I'd like not to say exactly where because I don't...
Fine. Did you pay her September's rent?
I did. I have that here.
Can I see it, please?
Then she didn't pay August. She paid 1 month.
How many months' rent did you pay?
I only paid September because when she moved, I was supposed to move in September 1st. When she moved, she had gone down to South Carolina and came back. There was some like flooding. People were messing around with her house. She said, Melanie, please just move in as soon as possible. I had to clean up as well.
Just a second. When did you move in?
Mid-July.
Well, then you should have paid 2 months' rent. You only paid 1. You saved a little bit of money so that you had enough money to put down on another apartment. I'm gonna entertain.
Yes, the only problem that I had was just finding something. We moved.
And you found something?
Yes.
That's good.
Can I say something, Matt? The electric and gas was shut off September 22nd. When my grandfather went, the 26th, everything was moldy, the freezer, everything. So they were out for a
Listen
while.
to me very carefully. You did the wrong thing. You wanted to move back to your house. You wanted her out. It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. So I don't know why you're suing her, because the truth of the matter is, if you hadn't brought this lawsuit, she wouldn't have counterclaimed. She was willing to forget it.
Yes, I
Forget it. It's over. It's over. You did the wrong thing. You're an apology, not a lawsuit. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She lied in the courtroom saying that she didn't do drugs, and I know she did.
My ultimate sadness is that I do not have her as a sister. It's not a probable, it's a definite. We have nothing.
We won't probably be talking anymore.
She filed this lawsuit on our father's birthday. The only thing that joins us. And I think that in itself is ironic and says it all.
21-year-old April Harrington is suing her ex-boyfriend, Fred Badman, for selling her belongings. Fred says he did it because April stole from his child.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 193 on the calendar in the matter of Harrington versus Badman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Harrington, according to the complaint that I read, you and the defendant were in a relationship and lived together for a period of time. When you moved in together, you took some of your stuff and put it in a storage unit. The storage unit was in Mr. Badman's name.
That's right.
And he paid for it.
No.
That's what he says. There came a time when the two of you parted company, a day that you will tell me about briefly, and it is your claim that he got rid of the stuff in your storage unit, which you wanted back. Mr. Badman acknowledges that he emptied the storage unit. Some of your stuff he gave to the Salvation Army. Some of your furniture he still has. And the reason he did that was that when you moved out, you took a substantial amount of property that did not belong to you, that belonged to him and to his daughter, and he has a counterclaim. How long did you live together?
He moved in with me in February of 2004. He had a dog, and I had a dog, and I was only allowed one dog at my apartment complex. Therefore, he moved into his own place, and about a few weeks after him living there, he begged me to move in, told me how much cheaper it would be.
Just listen to me.
Okay.
This is not a 1,000-page tome that we're going to do here. When did you move in together?
May of 2004.
And when did you put your property in storage?
The end of May, I believe.
The day she moved in. There wasn't room in my apartment for many of the
What
things.
did you put in storage?
I put living room furniture, dishes. My parents had started collecting teddy bears for me when I was a child. A futon, a bed, clothes, shoes, dresser, desk combination, a glass mirror, and my diploma, important tax information papers, all sorts of things.
And when did you separate?
July 25th, 2004.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you moving out.
I had found out that he had been cheating on me with her. That is his baby's mother. We were going to court for custody of his child, me and him together, and I found out that he was cheating on me. I came home from work early, asked him, you know, why are you doing this? Can we please talk about this? He then shoved me into a dresser and I dislocated my finger. The police then told him that he should leave the apartment for a few days while I got my things together. Within those 3 days, he came back and broke in his own door, busted the lock off, and I moved out the very next day because I wasn't safe living there with no lock on the door. I took the things that belonged to me and only me. The only thing that I have of him are some pornography tapes that I did not bring with me because of the security on the airplane, and I didn't want them flashing about. They're kind of disgusting.
What'd you take them for?
They were actually in a box of movies of mine.
When did you try to get your property back?
Right after I moved out, I went to the storage unit to see. I had a key to it because my things were in it. I did pay for it, and he had changed the locks.
Now I'll hear you, sir.
No, when we did break up, it was because of we were arguing about, she was accusing me of fooling around with her. We were just friends. We've always stayed friends because we have a child in common. So I didn't want to argue, so I left the home. She called the police. We went down there. She decided she didn't want to charge say anything because she told the police that I beat her up or whatever. So then we went to the police station.
You
she
did. You broke
said
my
anything. She did not file the
Ms.
report.
Harrington.
Anything. She said.
Shh. Don't say anything when he's testifying. You know how quiet he was when you
Sure.
were telling me your story?
Mm-hmm.
I read your complaint very carefully. You came home and you wanted to talk to him. That's
Correct.
what you said in your complaint.
Correct.
He was sleeping.
No, he was up.
It says, I'm reading from your complaint, things were going terribly for us, and he was served with an eviction notice. On July 25th, not June, on July 25th, 2004, everything came to a head. We were in an argument. I came home from work to talk to Fred. He was sleeping, and I tried to get him to talk to me. That's what you said.
Okay, that's fine.
And when you want to talk to somebody and they're sleeping and they don't want to communicate with you, you get angry.
No, I was not angry.
You weren't angry.
No, I was not.
No, you weren't angry.
I was upset.
You were living with somebody. You think he was fooling around with the mother of his child. According to you, you came home. You found him sleeping. You went in there and he didn't want to talk to you. And so he broke your finger.
He did.
Miss Harrington, I have no question that your finger got broken.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he broke it.
He wrote it in his report to the police. I actually have it.
Oh,
if
I'd
you'd
like to see that.
it.
He said he broke your finger. I'd like to see that.
Yes, it
I
does say that.
squeezed her hand. And that was after she went and punched the wall
It's
about 20
highlighted in
times
yellow.
around her. On the report, it says that there's no injuries to anybody. She didn't report any injuries to the police.
No,
right
there
there
were none marked.
I just wanted her to leave me alone. April started to poke me on the right side of my body with her finger. I told her to leave me alone. She continued to poke me with her finger, saying, stop being a blank jerk and talk to me. You know, you live long enough, you could practically write the scenario. I want to talk to you. Leave me alone. I just want to sleep. I don't want to talk to you now. Leave me alone. I want to talk to you. Then you say, I rolled over and grabbed her hand. I cannot remember which I had grabbed, but it was her bad hand, and she started crying. April asked me why I grabbed her like that, and I said, because you keep poking me.
I wasn't poking him. I really wanted to talk about it. I was very upset.
Listen to me. I got it. You just told me you weren't upset.
I would no.
No, you no. Listen to me. A moment ago, you said I came home from work. I just wanted to talk. I wasn't upset. Listen to me, Miss Harrington.
Your Honor, I wasn't angry. I was very upset. I was crying, hurt. I was not angry.
Then what I'm telling you is, you upset, angry, whatever it was. You can't put your hands on somebody like this, and if they don't like it, which she said, you gave me the report. So you want to vouch for the truth of this report.
No, just
the part that you like.
No, that's not true. If
Just
you
the
read
part-
my
listen,
statement also.
I'm reading his statement.
Okay.
That's what you gave me.
If you keep reading it, he also
listen.
pushed me in the face and kicked me off the bed. And
Listen to me. He wanted you to leave him alone.
So it's okay if he kicks me. And
you shouldn't have put your hands on him. Miss Harrington, you put your hands on
I wasn't
somebody.
hurting him. I was.
Listen to me. You can't put your hands on somebody and continue to irritate them and expect them to do nothing.
That's fine.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He gave them to me willingly.
No, I don't believe that. Madam, you just said to me, that's a fib. Fib, because you just said to me I took him out of spite.
And later today,
What else did you do with the car?
I let April drive it.
And April wrecked the car.
Yes.
You don't mind my yelling at him, do you?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. April Harrington says former live-in boyfriend Fred Badman sold her belongings after she moved out. Fred is countersuing, claiming April also stole from him.
What property of hers did you give away to the Salvation Army?
Things I gave away of hers, I went and retrieved all the stuff from the storage unit because I didn't want to pay
What
anymore.
month did you do that?
February 05, ma'am.
So you left it there for 6 months?
Many months I left it there.
She asked you for the stuff back.
I wanted my items back before I was going to give her anything. That's
What
what I told
items?
her.
What items were they?
She took my entertainment stand, a bunch of movies.
Just a second. Entertainment stand. What does that look like, sir?
It's right here. And a tent. That's what I got pictures of.
I need a cup of coffee.
An entertainment stand, some movies.
Shh. Okay. I mean, this entertainment stand, did you put it together yourself?
Yes, I did.
You put it together yourself?
Yes. I bought it from an appliance store years ago.
$69, you put it all together?
No, it was $300. It's a large entertainment stand.
I'm looking at it, sir. I got it.
Okay.
Let us say she took the entertainment stand. And she took
tent.
Did you take his tent?
No, I did not.
Did you take his entertainment stand?
He gave that to me because where he was moving had a big screen TV and he no longer needed it.
Oh.
Screen TV.
What else do you say she took of yours, sir?
She took my fishing tackle box, some PlayStation 1 video games. I don't know why she would have took my Jack, but Jack wasn't at my house no more. And she took my daughter's clothing and toys. Because when we were living together, we went out together, bought clothing and toys and many things for my daughter's birthday when she turned 1. And when she moved out, she figured I bought them, I'm taking them myself. So she took all the things that we bought together for my daughter.
All the things that she paid for?
Correct.
Good.
We paid
for. Listen to me. All the things that you paid for.
Correct.
Listen to me, Miss Harrington. You may have paid for them, but once you make a gift, then they no longer belong to you.
Okay, I actually bought them because we were going to custody for the child.
I don't care. They were not... The clothes didn't fit you.
Correct.
The toys weren't for you to play with. And once you purchase something and give it away, the gift is complete. You no longer have ties to it. You cannot take it. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
So that was wrong.
I know that was wrong.
So why didn't you give them back?
I took them out of spite, actually, honestly. And I did not give them back because we didn't talk anymore after that. He no longer... He wouldn't give me my things out of the storage unit. And
did he ask you for his daughter's things?
No, he never. He gave them to me willingly.
No, I don't believe that. Madam, you just said to me, that's a fib, because you just said to me, I took them out of spite.
Ma'am,
listen to me, you can't have it both ways.
I asked them for them back out of spite, yes, and he did give them to me willingly. I went to his new house.
Sounds to me like you
moved.
two people did a lot of nasty things to each other.
Very true.
But, Mr. Badman, you cannot dispose of her property.
I kept...
You can go to court and seek to recoup your $29.99 TV stand. Or, if you say your tent, which she says she doesn't have, that you can do. But you cannot give away her property.
I kept the important things, Your Honor. I kept all of her...
Oh, good. That's what I want to see. What important things that you kept?
I kept all of the furniture that she had, and I kept important documents like her taxes that she's been wanting.
Good.
And
I'd like to see all of those
her
things, sir.
GED papers.
Perfect. Oh, this is going
Would
to
you
be
like
such
my
a...
list also?
I'm speaking.
Okay.
It's all junk, Your Honor.
So you have all of it?
Yes, I
in
have
your
all that.
house?
It's at my aunt's house.
It looks like it's in a barn.
It is. So I wasn't going to keep paying $85 a month for stuff.
You should have given it back to her.
I didn't want to do that when she's kept all my stuff.
You're a big baby, Mr. Badman. You're a baby.
All right.
Yeah, you're a baby. 5 days from today, she's going to pick up all of her properties to be put together in good order.
The place where my things are at, there are 13 cats. And the house itself and the barn itself is absolutely covered in feces and urine.
Miss Harrington, this is your choice. The property has been in Mr. Badman's possession now for over a year.
Correct.
You had a choice. Your choice was to immediately pursue him in court, just as you did now, a month later. Listen to me. a month later and get your stuff.
He told me he sold it.
Well, then what brought you here a year later? Is not an answer.
He started leaving notes in my car, like trying to get in contact with me, so I went to see him, and he told me he sold them.
And I'm telling you, what you did was you waited for a year to pursue a matter in court, and now if you don't like the way the stuff has been, you're not going to get the cash for it. Okay, now I want you to tell me what you gave to Salvation Army.
I gave 2 Rubbermaid bins of clothing that was all moldy and gross from sitting around forever. The little box of ceramic dishes that she had, a few of them items were broke, so I had to throw them in the garbage, and a little bag of teddy bears that were just junk, and that was it.
Mr. Badman, that junk is going to cost you $1,000.
For dishes?
They weren't broken when she left them, and the clothes weren't moldy when she left them, and the teddy bears were a collection of hers, and you had no right to dispose of them. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Now, what proof do you have that she took any of your property?
I don't really have proof of anything, because when I've broken up with girls before, and I've dealt with them stealing like a couple things, and I just wanted to move on with my life.
You mean this has happened to you before?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
A couple.
You're very unlucky in love. Are you together now with the mother of your child?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You live together?
She's my fiance. We're just going to be married soon.
Oh, wonderful. So, did a little bit backwards,
getting my life
but
all straightened out, and everything's good, and just want to be with my child and get all this over with.
Very good. My complaint against Miss Harrington is a complaint that I can put on your shoulders as well, sir. You had a legal remedy, right?
I didn't choose to do anything.
You chose to do nothing.
Right.
And you have no proof that she took anything.
And she has no proof of what was in the storage unit either.
Listen to me.
Of the few items that she does
You
have.
just told me what it was that you, as far as I'm concerned, maliciously gave away, including something that she says was a teddy bear collection that she had for a very long time, and you said it was a bunch of junk teddy bears. It's not nice. That's irritating. You told me that. She didn't. I wouldn't even look at her list. I asked you what you gave to Salvation Army. So your counterclaim's dismissed. 5 days from today, she's going to pick up all of her stuff. And you owe her $1,000 for the stuff that you gave away wrongfully. That's all. Step out.
Thank you very much.
How does that excuse you may step out?
She was fun. I made a mistake, and I didn't think of other things, anything else other than what was in my pants.
We've been friends for 5 years. We've been together 4.5 years. We're getting married. He never cheated on her.
Don't get involved with people with the last name Badman.
বর্তমান সময়ে রোমান রেঞ্জ হেড অফ দ্য টেবল এবং ট্রাইবাল চিফ। তবে রোমান রেঞ্জের পরে WWE ম্যানেজমেন্ট কাকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানাবে? কেই বা রোমান রেঞ্জের শূন্যস্থান পূরণ করবে, আর কেই বা সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হবে, আর কাকেই বা উলাফালা মালা দিয়ে হেড অফ দ্য টেবল ট্রাইবাল চিফ বলা হবে? চলুন আজকের এই ভিডিওটিতে জেনে নেওয়া যাক এই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো নিয়ে। আপনি যদি আমাদের চ্যানেলে নতুন দর্শক হয়ে থাকেন বা রেসলিং সম্পর্কে নিয়মিত ভিডিও পেতে চান, তাহলে অবশ্যই আমাদের চ্যানেলটিকে সাবস্ক্রাইব করে পাশেই থাকবেন। বর্তমান সময়ে রোমান রেঞ্জ তিনি খুবই জনপ্রিয় একজন রেসলার। এই রেসলার বর্তমান সময়ে হেড অফ দ্য টেবল, ট্রাইবাল চিফ, আরো অনেক কিছু। তবে বর্তমান সময়ে রোমান রেঞ্জ তিনি সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হলেও এক সময় রোমান রেঞ্জ তিনি ট্রাইবাল চিফ থাকবেন না। অবশ্যই তিনি WWE থেকে বিদায় নেবেন। তবে রোমান রেঞ্জের অনুপস্থিতিতে কোন রেসলারকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানানো হতে পারে? আপনারা অবশ্য দেখেছেন অলরেডি WWE ম্যানেজমেন্ট সোলো সিকোয়াকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানানো শুরু করে দিয়েছে এবং রোমান রেঞ্জের ফেস টু ফেস নিয়ে আসছে। কয়েকদিন আগে তো রোমান রেঞ্জের এগেনস্টে একটি সিঙ্গেলস ম্যাচও অনুষ্ঠিত হয়েছিল সোলো সিকোয়ার। বিশেষ করে রেসেলমেনিয়া 40-এ কোডি রোডসের কাছে রোমান রেঞ্জ যখন আনডিসপিউটেড WWE ইউনিভার্সাল চ্যাম্পিয়নশিপটি হেরে গিয়েছিল, সে সময়ের পরে WWE থেকে লম্বা সময়ের জন্য বিদায় নিয়েছিলেন রোমান রেঞ্জ। তবে লম্বা সময়ের জন্য বিদায় নেবার পরেই হঠাৎ করেই দেখা যায় সোলো সিকোয়া নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ দাবি করছেন এবং পল হেমেনকে নিজের ওয়াইজ ম্যান হিসেবে ঘোষণা করছেন। একের পর এক রেসলারকে WWE-তে নিয়ে আসছেন। তিনি হচ্ছেন জেকব ফাটু, টামাটোঙ্গা, টোঙ্গালোয়া, এই সমস্ত রেসলারগুলোকে নিয়ে এসে নিজেকে সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা এবং ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে স্টাবলিশ করছেন। একসময় পল হেমেনকে বিদায় করেছেন। রোমান রেঞ্জ ফিরে আসার পরে নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা অরিজিনাল ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করছিলেন। তবে সেইখানে সোলো সিকোয়া তিনি নিজেকে একেবারে অরিজিনাল ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করছিলেন। আর এগুলো নিয়ে রোমান রেঞ্জের সঙ্গে বেশ কিছুদিন ধরে রাইভালরি চলছিল, বিশেষ করে জে উসো, জিমি উসো, স্যামি জেইন এদের এগেনস্টে সোলো সিকোয়ার ব্লাড লাইন অর্থাৎ সোলো সিকোয়া, টামাটোঙ্গা, টোঙ্গালোয়া, জেকব ফাটু এদেরকে দিয়ে বেশ কয়েকটি ম্যাচ খেলানো হয়েছে। সার্ভাইভার সিরিজে ম্যাচ খেলানো হয়েছে, আরও আদার্স সময়ে এদের ম্যাচটি দেওয়া হয়েছে। তবে রোমান রেঞ্জ তিনি ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ থেকে যখন রেসলমেনিয়ার পরে ছুটিতে গিয়েছিলেন, তারপর থেকে সোলো সিকোয়া নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে বেশ ভালোই এস্টাবলিশ করতে পেরেছেন। সোলো সিকোয়া তার ক্যারেক্টারে পরিবর্তন নিয়ে এসেছেন, নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ দাবি করছেন, নিজের কিছুটা অঙ্গভঙ্গি রোমান রেঞ্জের মতোই করার চেষ্টা করছেন এবং ট্রাইবাল চিফ হতে গেলে যেই গুণগুলো একজন রেসলারের মধ্যে থাকা প্রয়োজন ঠিক তেমনটাই কিন্তু সোলো সিকোয়া করে দেখাচ্ছিলেন। অর্থাৎ সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জের ভাই, একসময় রোমান রেঞ্জের ইনফোর্সার ছিলেন, তবে পরবর্তীতে রোমান রেঞ্জের অনুপস্থিতিতে নিজেকে হেড অব দ্য টেবল এবং ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করছেন। তবে যতটুকু ধারণা লাগানো হচ্ছে, রোমান রেঞ্জ ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ থেকে বিদায় নেওয়ার পরে জে উসো তিনিও নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ দাবি করতে পারেন, জিমি উসো তিনিও নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ দাবি করতে পারেন এবং জেকব ফাটু, ডেঞ্জারম্যান জেকব ফাটু তিনিও নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করতে পারেন। টামাটোঙ্গা, টোঙ্গালোয়া আরও অনেক রেসলার আছেন, সামোয়ান রেসলার, তারা ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউতে ডেবিউ করবেন, তারাও হয়তোবা একে একে নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করলেও করতে পারেন। তবে এখানে সব থেকে বড় কন্টেন্ডার বা সব থেকে বড় দাবিদার রয়েছেন সোলো সিকোয়া। সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জের সঙ্গে থাকতে থাকতে রোমান রেঞ্জ চলে যাবার পরে যেভাবে নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করে নিজেকে স্ট্যাবলিশ করছিলেন সকলের সামনে, সেগুলো দেখে বোঝাই যাচ্ছিল সোলো সিকোয়ার মধ্যে সেই সমস্ত গুণ রয়েছে যেগুলো থাকলে একজন রেসলার ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা সামোয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হতে পারবেন। সামোয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হতে গেলে যে সমস্ত গুণগুলো থাকা প্রয়োজন সোলো সিকোয়ার মধ্যে, সেই সমস্ত গুণাবলী দেখা যাচ্ছিল। সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জের মতো অ্যাটিটিউড নিয়ে কথা বলেন, সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জের মতো অ্যাগ্রেশন দেখান, সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জের মতো একের পর এক ম্যাচে জয় পেয়ে যাচ্ছিলেন। এমনকি রোমান রেঞ্জের ফেস টু ফেস এসে নিজেকে সামোয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা দাবি করছিলেন। রোমান রেঞ্জ যেভাবে বাজে কাজ করে নিজেকে উচ্চ পর্যায়ে নিয়ে গিয়েছিলেন, অর্থাৎ তার ভাইদের সহযোগিতা নিয়েছিলেন, ঠিক তেমনটাই সোলো সিকোয়া তিনি জেকব ফাটু, টামাটোঙ্গা, টোঙ্গালোয়া এদের সহযোগিতা নিয়েই কিন্তু একেবারে উচ্চ পর্যায়ে নিজেকে তুলে ধরছিলেন। তবে যাই হোক, সোলো সিকোয়া সে সমস্ত কাজ করছেন যেগুলো করলে তাকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা হেড অব দ্য টেবল হিসেবে ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউতে দেখানো হবে। অর্থাৎ বোঝাই যাচ্ছে রোমান রেঞ্জ তিনি ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ থেকে বিদায় নেওয়ার পরে যেভাবেই হোক সোলো সিকোয়াকে নতুন ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানানো হবে। অর্থাৎ সোলো সিকোয়া রোমান রেঞ্জকে রিপ্লেস করে নিজেকে হেড অব দ্য টেবল ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করবেন। তবে সোলো সিকোয়ার সময় আসার আগে অবশ্যই রোমান রেঞ্জ দ্য রকের মধ্যে ট্রাইবাল চিফের পজিশন নিয়ে এদের মধ্যে ইন্টারেস্টিং কিছু দেখানো হতে পারে। তবে সোলো সিকোয়াকে পরবর্তী জেনারেশনের ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা পরবর্তী সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা বা ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা হেড অব দ্য টেবল এমন কিছুই ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ ম্যানেজমেন্ট আমাদেরকে করতে দেখাবে বা সোলো সিকোয়াকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানিয়ে দেখাবে। তবে সোলো সিকোয়া সবেমাত্র নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে দাবি করা শুরু করেছেন এবং অল্প সময়ের মধ্যে নিজেকে যে উচ্চ পর্যায়ে নিয়ে চলে গিয়েছেন, নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে সকলের কাছে প্রমাণ করতে লেগে গিয়েছিলেন, সেটা হয়তো অন্য কোনো রেসলারের মধ্যে দেখা যায়নি বা অন্য কোনো সামওয়ান রেসলারের মধ্যে দেখা যায়নি। রোমান রেঞ্জ নিজেকে নিজের দমে বা নিজের রেসলিং যোগ্যতা নিয়েই ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে প্রমাণ করেছিল, হেড অব দ্য টেবল হয়েছিল। সোলো সিকোয়াও তেমনটা রোমান রেঞ্জের পরে নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে এস্টাবলিশ করছিলেন। তবে যাই হোক, সোলো সিকোয়াই হয়তোবা পরবর্তী সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির জন্য নতুন ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ ম্যানেজমেন্ট সোলো সিকোয়াকে ঘোষণা দিতে পারে। কেননা সোলো সিকোয়া একসময় রোমান রেঞ্জের ইনফোর্সার হিসেবে রোমান রেঞ্জকে সহযোগিতা করেছেন, প্রত্যেকটা কথা শুনেছেন, রোমান রেঞ্জ যা আদেশ করেছেন সেই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো শুনেছেন, রোমান রেঞ্জকে তিনি হেল্প করেছেন, রোমান রেঞ্জকে এক একটা ম্যাচ জিতাতে নিজের শরীর সেখানে এগেনস্ট রেসলারের কাছে দিয়ে দিয়েছেন। তারা হয়তোবা সোলো সিকোয়াকে আক্রমণ করেছেন আর তিনি নিজে মার খেয়ে রোমান রেঞ্জকে সহযোগিতা করেছেন বা রোমান রেঞ্জকে বাঁচিয়েছেন। এই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো আসলে এজন্যই করা হচ্ছিল বা সোলো সিকোয়াকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানানোর জন্যই এই কাজগুলো করে আসছিলেন ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ ম্যানেজমেন্ট। তবে এখানে আমার মতে পরবর্তী জেনারেশনের ট্রাইবাল চিফ হবেন সোলো সিকোয়া। তবে আপনাদের কি মনে হচ্ছে, রোমান রেঞ্জের রিপ্লেসমেন্ট হিসেবে সোলো সিকোয়া কি পরবর্তী জেনারেশনের ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা হেড অব দ্য টেবল ট্রাইবাল চিফ বা সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হতে পারবেন? আপনাদের কি মনে হচ্ছে অবশ্যই কমেন্ট বক্সে কমেন্ট করে জানাবেন। আর রোমান রেঞ্জ আসলে কতদিন নাগাদ রেসলিং করতে পারবেন বা রোমান রেঞ্জ নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ হিসেবে আর কতদিন নিজেকে ধরে রাখতে পারবেন বা উলাফালা মালা নিজের কাছে কতদিন রাখতে পারবেন, এটাতে আপনাদের কি মনে হচ্ছে? রোমান রেঞ্জ কি আদৌ আরো লম্বা সময় ট্রাইবাল চিফ থাকতে পারবেন নাকি ডাব্লিউডাব্লিউ থেকে বিদায় নিয়ে একেবারে হলিউডে চলে যাবেন? মানে সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো মিলিয়েই কিন্তু বোঝা যাচ্ছে রোমান রেঞ্জের অনুপস্থিতিতে সোলো সিকোয়াকে নিজেকে ট্রাইবাল চিফ দাবি করে বা সামওয়ান ফ্যামিলির নেতা হিসেবে নিজেকে দাবি করে ওয়ার্ল্ড চ্যাম্পিয়নশিপ জিততে পারেন। এই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলোই রোমান রেঞ্জ WWE থেকে বিদায় নেওয়ার পরে সোলো সিকুয়ার সঙ্গে ঘটতে দেখা যাবে, অর্থাৎ রোমান রেঞ্জের অনুপস্থিতিতে সোলো সিকুয়াকেই নতুন ট্রাইবাল চিফ বানানো হবে। তো ভিডিওটি কেমন লেগেছে আপনাদের অবশ্যই কমেন্ট বক্সে কমেন্ট করে জানাবেন। আর ভিডিওটি ভালো লাগলে আমাদের চ্যানেলটিকে সাবস্ক্রাইব করে রাখবেন। আর আরও বেশি বেশি যেন ভিডিও বানাতে পারি সেই বিষয়ে উৎসাহ দেওয়ার জন্য আপনারা চাইলে আমাদের ভিডিওটিকে লাইক করতে পারেন এবং কমেন্ট বক্সে কমেন্ট করে আমাদেরকে উৎসাহ দিতে পারেন। আর রেসলিং সম্পর্কে বা রেসলিংয়ের কী সম্পর্কে আপনারা নিউজ পেতে চান সেই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো আমাদেরকে কমেন্ট করলে পরবর্তীতে আমরা সেই সমস্ত বিষয় ভিডিও বানাবো বা সেই সমস্ত বিষয়গুলো তুলে ধরবো। তো আজকের মতো এ পর্যন্তই। ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।